Boom! The first goblin gets smacked right in the face with a dumbbell and explodes into the ground. The others charge the building ready to take over, but suddenly the whole room starts glowing, and a dumbbell rain erupts, wiping them all out. Then a massive high-level monster tries to break in but gets cooked alive by boiling oil. The one behind this chaos? Our protagonist, locked away from the apocalyptic world inside his unbreakable barrier. He can't leave, but he's got everything he needs. Power, water, food, you name it. He can register any real-world item in his store and buy it later using cash earned from killing monsters. While the world outside is burning and people are screaming for help, he's just chillin', expanding his safe zone bit by bit. His goal? Reach the other side of the city and save his family. But to do that, he's got to level up like crazy. The best part? He can bring people inside his territory where they live like 9-to-5 workers. Safe home, good food, but they gotta grind for our boy so he can keep his comfy yet deadly empire growing. Oh, and don't even get me started on the rat girl begging for his help. Bro's out here trying to rizz up a furry. That's some next level madness I ain't touching. Or maybe I would. Anyway, let's go. In an apartment building, a guy's munching on some chips, saying that, yeah, technically, the world didn't completely end. Because in theory, he's still living a normal life. That's the good part. The bad part is he's totally alone. He's the only one living in that 100-square-meter apartment. His mom, dad, grandpa, and grandma, they're all gone, outside somewhere. Apparently, his dad went a little crazy trying to buy that place, borrowed $200 million, then another $200 million from the bank, took loans, gambled, and somehow finally managed to buy it. That's why, even though the kid wasn't born rich, he's still about to enjoy the perks of living in a nice place. And when the apocalypse started, when all the chaos broke loose, he decided to stay there. He checks his phone and his face goes pale when he realizes there's no signal at all. He takes a deep breath, but suddenly a loud noise echoes. He turns his head, and there's this thing flying straight toward him, slamming into the window. He falls backward in shock. The monster comes in for another hit, but then a message flashes across the glass. A creature without permission is trying to enter. The guy calms down, remembering that's the one reason he's even still alive, but he's losing it. He starts kicking the door in frustration, cursing out loud. It's been 3 days since the world supposedly ended, but he still can't leave the room. He's completely trapped inside. The system tells him that he, the super recluse, isn't allowed to go out. He yells at it, saying if this keeps up, he's gonna die. His biggest problem right now is food. The power's been out since yesterday. He's been eating whatever's left in the fridge, but that won't last long. Then, out of nowhere in the system pops up a message. He's hunted down a level 23 Calican and earned a huge amount of experience. He stares, confused. Did it mean that bird? He walks to the window and looks down, spotting the creature being devoured by a bunch of goblins. Damn, they even eat each other. The guy realizes it must have happened because the monster crashed right into his apartment. On top of that, he gets a new skill saying that the nearby loot has met certain requirements and begins calculating something. Suddenly, he's standing there, not quite getting what's going on. The goblins are all screaming, clutching their heads, writhing in agony as they look up. Then the system announces that the calculation's complete, and he's earned 2,213 won. And just as that money hits his account, the lights flicker on. A skill called Dignity Preservation, level 1 activates, something that restores all the basic functions of his home. For a second, he doesn't understand, but soon he's fired up because that's exactly what he needed. The fridge is working again, the water's running, the oven's lighting up. Finally, everything's back to how it was before the apocalypse. The idiot even checks his phone, thinking maybe it's back too, but obviously not right. The phone's not part of the house. But then he notices something weird. Amid all the junk on the floor, there's a strange USB stick. He plugs it into the PC and sees a photo of a mother holding a baby, then another with him in her arms. The kid and his whole happy family. Too bad they're probably being eaten by monsters now. Still, he mutters that he has to bring his family here no matter what. He's dead set on it, staring out toward the balcony, when suddenly, a store window pops up. Of course, if you're earning money, there's got to be a place to spend it. He stares at the message that says, View Item List, trying to figure out what's going on. Right away, he realizes it must be tied to the money he got from those monsters. He tries to open the door again, but the system repeats that the last recluse can't leave. Just as he thought, doesn't matter how much his level has gone up, he still can't get out. The only thing he knows for sure is that if he keeps hunting monsters, he'll keep leveling up and gaining new abilities. Maybe eventually he'll get one that lets him leave the house. But the real question is, how's he supposed to kill monsters from where he is? Then, seeing those creatures flying around and the one corpse being devoured down below, he gets an idea. He goes to the kitchen, fills a bottle of water, stretches his arm out, and throws it outside. At least items could be tossed beyond the house barrier. That's when he grabs a small dumbbell nearby and decides to test his luck with that. But as he's holding it, he hears something screeching. Looking down, he sees goblins yelling at each other, carrying chunks of the bird he killed earlier. They're about to leave, and he shouts, Hey, don't you run off now. Holy crap, this kid's got aimbot or something. He throws it and nails the target dead on. Wait, no, hold up. Turns out he hit the bird's corpse instead. I thought for a second the guy was actually cheating. Problem is, now he's only got one dumbbell left to throw. As he's thinking he's too weak to try again, the goblins suddenly notice him. They glance up, lock eyes, and start sprinting straight toward his building. He flinches for a moment but quickly realizes, maybe this isn't so bad. He opens the store interface and clicks List Item. The system registers his dumbbell as an item worth 16,991, the exact same price he paid when he bought it online. Maybe this recluse shop actually mirrors real-world prices. So he decides to buy 2 more, and they drop right in front of him. Now he's got a way to practice his throwing skills. From up above, he hurls another one, and this time it smashes right into a goblin's skull. It's only 3 kilos, but hey, Newton's law does its job. The thing dies instantly, and he earns another 3,301. Blood splattering everywhere, the ground's turning red, and the rest of the goblins are screaming in panic. The guys already started bombing them from above, summoning 3 more dumbbells, grabbing one, throwing it. Another clean hit to the skull. Another 2,500 coins deposited, and just like that, he gains another skill. The warehouse, it was basically an alternate dimension where he could store items. Right away, he decides to open it up to see how it works. The system asks if he wants to store something, and he says yes. The 3-kilo dumbbell vanishes. Then he asks to retrieve it, and just like that, it pops right back into his hand. That's when he notices he's sitting on 2,000,001. No wonder he's been able to buy all those 16,001 items. And now that the warehouse is working, he gets another idea. In a split second, the top floor starts glowing. The system appears, and he commands it to summon the dumbbells. Suddenly, hundreds of them materialize in front of him. He's made it rain weights from the sky. That wasn't just an attack anymore, that was straight torture. Those poor goblins standing there like idiots are completely crushed. Everything dies instantly. He levels up again and earns another 59,000 coins. But honestly, he's spending way more than he's making. He's got to find a more efficient way to handle this. After the dumbbell rain, he registers every single item in his apartment into the store system. At least now, food and water won't be a problem anymore, not with the supplies and options he's got. But then the system notifies him that he's lost 1-1. It updates the balance. He doesn't get why. Maybe that dignity preservation thing costs something to maintain, or maybe it's from running the fridge. Either way, the guy's getting pissed. After all that dumbbell rain, of course, the goblins moved out. They're not stupid enough to stay there. Since then, he's only managed to kill 2 more. It's getting harder because he needs creatures to hunt. But looking around, all that's left are carcasses. He needs a new method. It'd be great if another dumb calican just happened to show up. Then its corpse would drop nearby, and maybe other monsters would come scavenging. And the kid's got a big mouth, because the moment he says that, one comes swooping down from the sky trying to take a bite out of him. He takes off running, scared out of his mind, but at the same time, he's thinking maybe God hasn't abandoned him after all. He runs back inside, ties something to a ladder, sets it up outside, and hangs it over the edge. It's a little mirror. That way, the creature sees its reflection and dives right in to attack it. The kid's celebrating like crazy as the monster keeps slamming into the barrier. He figures the thing's gotta be dead by now, but strangely, it keeps flapping its wings before suddenly vanishing. He looks up and sees the weird thing hovering there, its mouth wide open, staring right at him. The system warns that an unauthorized entity is attempting to enter. The monster keeps pounding against the barrier while he's praying it doesn't break through. He opens the shop, desperate for something that could help. From what he's figured out, he only receives loot if the monster dies nearby. That's why the goblin hunts weren't always successful. Some survivors dragged away the corpses, and those kills didn't count toward his loot. Meaning, if the distance goes past a certain limit, the calculation fails. And he can't let that happen again. He needs a way to kill this thing in one strike. Seeing the creature thrashing right outside, he suddenly gets an idea. He opens the shop and buys a ton of canola oil. Heads to the stove, heats it up, lets it boil, then dips a pan full of the stuff and opens the system store again. He registers the canola oil as a new item, grabs his lighter, and makes a torch. The monster's still hovering up there waiting. He climbs higher, opens the small upper window above the creature, and dumps all that burning oil right onto its head. As the thing shrieks in agony, he lights the torch and throws it straight into its body. Flames engulf it. He smiles and says, "That's gotta have worked." The creature convulses violently, drenched in oil, before crashing to the ground and thrashing in agony until it finally stops moving. It's dead, a level 27 calican. His level jumps twice and he unlocks new abilities. Then the system finishes the loot calculation, 9,000,001. Even the protagonist himself is stunned. These calicans must be tough to kill, unless you're cheating from inside your little secret house. Then the system suddenly announces that certain requirements have been met and that territory expansion will begin. The whole place starts shaking and he has no clue what's going on. Out of nowhere, a strange aura, almost like it's made of inverted colors, surrounds him. The kid grabs his head as this eerie energy expands, and somehow, he starts sensing a family living on the floor below him. He's still totally lost about what's happening when the strange aura fades away. Then the system registers those people. They all share the same last name, Choi, obviously, since they're a family. There's Hyunjun, the father, Haiwon, the mother, Naeun, one of the daughters, and Suyeon, the other daughter. Oh, good grief. Guess the mom was feeling creative with those names. And apparently, they've met the requirements to be recognized as citizens. The system asks if he wants to grant them citizenship. The protagonist hesitates, wondering what would happen if he said no. The system explains that anyone without citizenship would be expelled from the house, He realizes that'd be cruel. Throwing them out there would mean certain death at the hands of the monsters. Since it's just one family, he decides to grant citizenship to all 4 of them. Right away, the system confirms it's done, and he realizes he's gaining new powers at an incredible rate. With this new citizenship system, he also unlocks something called Ultimate Eyes. Nothing inside the house can escape his sight now. He wonders if it's somehow connected to the citizens. Then the system shows him that he holds the owner's declarations. Nobody can enter the house without his permission. He opens the citizenship menu and sees the 4 registered family members. But then he notices something else. There are around 600 total people listed. What the hell? That's insane. It's like a literal simulation game now. He's a bit freaked out. 600 is a lot, but he also sees he can manage way more than he expected. There's experience distribution, trust levels, and even mission assignments. Oh, this is getting good. The protagonist realizes he can control how much experience they share with him. This might be the real key to getting stronger. Excited, he checks what kind of missions he can assign. Turns out, he writes them himself, sets the time limit, the reward, even the penalty. So he creates one. Hunt 1 goblin. Time limit, 180 hours. Reward, a small amount of experience. Penalty, none have failed. He hesitates, thinking it over. The reward's small, but what if he added a penalty? Maybe something serious, like death on failure? Damn, the guy went from 0 to 100 real quick. He shakes his head, says no, and cancels the mission. But then he realizes something. His citizens could die at any time if he wanted. In theory, he could give them an impossible task and they'd have no way out. He's starting to understand how deep his powers really go. He activates his ultimate eyes again and can see everything happening around him. The mother's asking, "Honey, what do we do?" The father answers, "We need water. Everyone's dying of thirst." She says she knows, but asks, "Where are we supposed to find water?" He replies, "There's a convenience store nearby, a big one. Maybe there's something left there." The little daughters start whining, "Mommy, I'm thirsty. Send daddy out to get water." Poor guy's right there hearing it. Those kids are ruthless. Even with his legs shaking, he tries to sound confident. "Trust your dad, I got this." The wife's not buying that act one bit. Then the protagonist deactivates his vision power and realizes things are worse than he thought. He opens the system shop and checks his stats. He's got a few points left and wonders if he could use them to upgrade the warehouse. Hoping it'll unlock new features, he confirms the upgrade. With that, the number of items he can list increases to 20 and a 10% discount is applied to everything. He still has 2 points left. The smart move would be to put them into dignity preservation or the shop, since he might end up finding more and more citizens later on. He upgrades the shop to level 3, and now he can list 40 items and unlocks a new feature, item restoration. Being able to turn old, worn-out things into brand new ones? Totally worth it. He opens the shop again, orders some water and a few tangerines, and uses what he thinks is his last dignity point to upgrade the preservation of the area. His plan is to provide electricity and water to the neighbors because, that could turn into a good bargaining chip later. The dignity preservation skill level's up to 2, and now he gains the ability to register vassals. Meanwhile, the father is getting ready to leave, but look at this guy's outfit. Come on, man, don't do it. Look at your family. You're just gonna leave them behind like that? But off he goes anyway. Everyone, daddy's heading out, but don't worry, I'll be back soon. The girls were the ones begging for water earlier, and now they're panicking, asking if he's really going to leave. He tells them not to worry, he'll bring back water and food and return soon. But obviously, they're terrified, screaming about the monsters outside. Then we see a flashback. The girls were building a little sandcastle in the playground when a bunch of goblins suddenly appeared. They bolted, ran like lightning. Luckily, their parents arrived just in time, grabbed them, and saved them. Real heroes, those two. Now, remembering that encounter with the goblins, the father's trembling all over again. The mother tells the girls to stop crying while he knows deep down this might be the last time he ever sees them. And right at that moment, someone approaches their door. A voice from outside apologizes and asks them to please open up. The man grips his golf club tight, trying to figure out who's there. It could be a monster or something even worse. But whoever it is, I'm betting it's the protagonist checking if anyone else is still alive in the building. The father stays on guard, ready to strike, while the kids, thankfully not completely dumb, cover their mouths, trying not to make a sound. Then the door creaks open. The father, who was supposed to be heading out to fight monsters, turns his back to shield his family instead of attacking. Come on, face the enemy. If you don't, you'll die first and then everyone else will too. Lucky for him, it's just the protagonist, a friendly one, standing there with a bag of food. He introduces himself as Kim Jae-hoon, the guy who lives next door. The family's stunned, emotional, even. Imagine you're about to walk to your death, and out of nowhere, this kid shows up with exactly what you needed. The father's speechless, staring at the bag. What, tangerines? Water? He looks over at his confused family. Obviously, they desperately need it, and there's no reason to refuse. That's what the father thinks, so he invites the boy inside. The daughters are super suspicious, though, giving the kid side eye while he can tell they don't trust him at all. But he's actually impressed. The family covered their windows with blackout curtains and kept everything dark and quiet, trying not to attract any attention. Still, he figures they could use a little light. So what does he do? Activates his power and lights the place up completely. Looks like he's not the type of protagonist who hides his strength. Besides, within his domain, he seems to have absolute control over everyone. If he wanted, he could assign someone a mission like, go to the next room within 1 second, and if they failed, they'd just drop dead on the spot. For now, though, he's keeping things chill, just handing out water. As the girls thank him and drink, he can't help but find them kind of adorable. He offers them some tangerines and they shyly accept. The mother takes one, says she'll peel it for her daughter, and as the little girl eats, her face lights up with happiness. Since the first daughter already ate, the second one realizes my dumb sister didn't die, so it's safe for me too. Give him a piece, Mom. She gets all cute and cheerful. With that, the trust level of all those new citizens goes up. The loyalty system activates, and Soyeon's loyalty surpasses 30. Soyeon's the youngest daughter, and since she passed 30, she can now be registered as a vassal. That's when he notices something else on the screen. Her trust level is 57. But there's also an option labeled Expel. The protagonist doesn't seem too thrilled about that. He can only have 10 vassals at a time, and it looks like this feature's gonna be important. He wants people who can actually follow his commands. Their father's loyalty, though, is still stuck at 31. That's a problem. He needs to get that guy to trust him more. So while the father's thanking him, the protagonist says it's fine and invites him for a quick chat in the hallway. Outside, he asks if the man received citizenship, and he nods. Said a little window popped up, and the whole family got it about 30 minutes ago. The protagonist asks if anything special happened during that, and the man explains they couldn't move their bodies for a while. That's when the protagonist decides to make an offer. He tells Hyunjin that he can help him get back the peaceful life he used to have. He can guarantee no monsters will ever invade their home again. The father doesn't seem to believe that asking if something like that's even possible. The protagonist assures him it is. Now the father's cautious. He knows there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. So what's the catch? The protagonist doesn't sugarcoat it. He says there's a risk of death. Still, the man nods. He's ready to try. All they need is food and water, and he's already willing to risk his life for that. Yeah, he's even ready to die like a fool if it comes to it. Then the protagonist mentions he saw a golf club earlier and asks how much it cost. The guy says, I don't know, maybe 400,000 or 500,000. The protagonist like, damn, that's not efficient at all, way too expensive. If it were just a piece of metal, it'd cost way less. So he decides it's not worth registering since he has a limit on how many items can be added, and as he levels up, it'll only get harder to register new ones. The father looks confused, wondering why he even asked about the price. The protagonist waves it off, saying it's nothing, just curiosity. Then he asks if the man remembers the day the monsters first appeared. Jae-yeon says yeah, it was a weekend and it was terrifying. The protagonist thinks that's obvious. Those who stayed home probably survived. He's also realized that low-level goblins are way weaker than adult humans. The only thing that makes them dangerous is that they move in large groups. But the same could be said for humans. So the protagonist's plan now is simple. Form an army first. Then he tells Hyunjin, from now on, you're coming with me. We're going to find more survivors. Sometime later, he notices that Hyunjin's trust in him has gone up. Right now, the only one who still doesn't trust him is the mother. Looking at the family together, the protagonist can't help thinking he'd love to bring his own family back too. But then they hear something, groans, screams, strange noises. They look outside and down below. A group of people is fighting off goblins. Problem is, how's he supposed to help them? The only attacks he's got are Dumble Rain and Flaming Oil. The people down there are giving it everything they've got. One guy throws a baseball at a goblin's head, blowing it apart on impact. Another girl fires 2 arrows straight into one's skull. Dead center. Damn. Meanwhile, the guy with the bat leaps forward and smashes another goblin's head in. The rest of them panic and start running for their lives. Get out of here, damn it. They're killing everyone. The fighters stay in formation, holding their ground, radiating aura. But then, one of the girls senses something coming. She draws her bow, aims, and wait, is that a bag of chips? From up above, she sees some guy waving at her. She's like, who's this weird kid? While the protagonist keeps cheerfully waving back. Then someone knocks on his door. It's Hyunjin, carrying a box. The protagonist thanks him, but as soon as the man tries to step inside, he slams right into an invisible barrier. The system instantly pops up a message saying he's not qualified and can't enter the house. The guy's confused, and honestly, so is the protagonist. Maybe no one can enter his place, or maybe only those registered as vassals can. Hyunjin decides to ignore it and just hands over the box filled with anything that could be used as a weapon. Right after, the protagonist opens the system and orders 5 bottles of water and 5 packs of instant noodles. You think he was going to hand them to the father, but instead he tells him to put them down at the building entrance. Hyunjin hesitates, saying it's risky, but the protagonist explains that goblins only move around a lot during the day. Obviously, the real plan is to attract that group of adventurers he saw earlier, the ones who actually knew how to fight. By providing food, he becomes someone people looked up to, maybe even worshipped. So he tells Hyunjin he's got a plan and just needs him to do it. The man agrees, it's not hard, and thanks him again. Then the protagonist opens the mission window and assigns him an official task. Place the box downstairs. The reward, just a small amount of experience. Hyunjin looks at it confused, but it feels a lot like a level-up system in a game. The protagonist confirms that's basically what it is and adds that Hyunjin's currently level 9. Probably, as he levels up, he'll get more rewards, so he's counting on him. That fires the man up. Finally, there's a way to grow stronger. Carefully, he heads down the emergency stairs, step by step, until he reaches the first floor. Outside, it seems calm. Too calm. But when he glances to the side, he spots several dark shapes moving. He instantly figures it must be a bunch of monsters. Bro, you just need to drop that box on the ground. Why not put it by your feet? No, instead you have to prove to everyone how completely unprepared and clumsy you are, falling face first like a total idiot. Damn, that was harsh, but honestly, he kinda deserves it. Lucky for him, he's already swinging blindly in self-defense. And guess what? It's not a monster. It's the group that fought the goblins earlier. They ask if he's okay. Lucky bastard, second time in a row he's almost died for nothing. Meanwhile, the system notifies the protagonist that unregistered individuals are trying to enter. Immediately, he activates his ultimate eyes and sees what's happening. Hyunjin's walking in with 3 strangers. Everyone's talking, saying the same thing. It's from this apartment that the noodle packs fell. Could this place really have that much food to be giving it away? The protagonist realizes it's the same group that fought the goblins. Now, the system prompts him with a new message offering to grant them citizenship. This time, though, it's a proposal. During territory expansion, he can force people nearby to become citizens. But if they refuse, they're expelled. Now, though, the system's giving him a choice, meaning they can refuse his offer too. Then what seems to be his home's communication camera starts ringing. He checks it. It's Hyunjin. He asks if he's okay, and Hyunjin says yes. At that exact moment, the system reminds him that Hyunjin's still in the middle of a mission, and he can edit that mission. He decides to tweak it and adds a new objective. Bring those 3 people upstairs for a meal. He updates the mission and sends it over. Hyunjin agrees, apparently explains things to the newcomers, and tells the protagonist that it's all confirmed. Right after that, the protagonist sends the citizenship proposal. Since they were allowed access to his territory, they automatically qualify to enter. The number of citizens rises to 10, and the overall experience gain gets boosted by 10%. The protagonist, pumped, looks like bringing in more people is going to mean even more bonuses. He notices that the new people have now been registered, and obviously their trust levels are ridiculously low. What really surprises him, though, is one of them. Some guy named Dongjin, he's level 23. That's as strong as the Calican he killed earlier. That's the same guy from before, the one who threw that baseball and then smashed the goblin's head in. As expected, someone that strong has to be an awakened human. He knows that depending on who's holding the weapon, even something simple like a baseball can turn into a deadly tool. And if that person's power is multiplied by this system, then yeah, that's basically perfect for monster hunting. Trust, though, that's something he'll have to build up slowly. For now, he decides to set the experience share rate to 70%. The registration's complete, and now he knows all he has to do is assign missions to those guys to go hunt monsters while he sits back, earning experience and cash. Of course, eventually, he'll have to meet them in person. After all, they might be the key to finding his own family. Then suddenly, Dongjin's trust level rises, and not just his, everyone's trust is increasing nonstop. He's completely confused. What the hell's going on? Oh, for crying out loud, the dad's out of his mind. He actually brought the whole group into their home. The wife's already yelling, "Honey, what are you thinking bringing 6 armed people into our house with our 2 daughters here?" And he just shrugs. "My dear wife, did you forget you married an idiot?" Poor woman. No wonder she doesn't trust the protagonist. She can't even trust her husband. He tells her to cook something and she's hesitant, saying, "I don't know if I should." She keeps refusing until he mentions it's for the protagonist. Then she sighs and agrees, asking the newcomers to wait a bit. They just nod and thank her politely. Dongjin, the guy with the bat, asks what kind of person this Jaehyun really is. Hyunjin admits he's not entirely sure either. All he knows is that the kid's their neighbor and he gives out food. Dongjin immediately gets the picture. Someone like that has to be dangerous. Hyunjin, though, is a bit of an oddball himself. Still, the group's sure about one thing. This guy Jaehyun must be some kind of meta-human. And for him to be supplying electricity, food, and water like that, he's got to have an insane ability. They can't deny it to them. He's practically a god in this new world. The father says dinner's going to take a while, so he suggests they go freshen up, literally. No one's about to refuse a hot shower in the middle of the apocalypse. Dongjin immediately realizes what that means. If there's electricity, that means plenty of things are still working. The father confirms, smiling, that yes, there's warm water for everyone. Everyone's a little freaked out, and he starts bragging that it's all thanks to Jaehyun's powers. He's got a bathroom, a suite, and even a super suite. Plenty of room for everyone to get cleaned up. Then the skinny guy with glasses, seriously, a guy looks like he's running on half a pack of noodles, asks, "You think this Jaehyun kid's really a meta-human?" Dongjin replies, "Yeah, definitely. Whoever this owner is, he's got some insane skill. Just look at me. My only weapon's a baseball bat." His friend beside him jokes, "Relax, man. Just beat him up and take what he's got." Dongjin snaps back, "Wake up, you idiot. We're supposed to impress this guy, not fight him." The friend mutters, "Wait, you're saying there's a way to solve problems without punching someone?" "Yeah, that one's definitely missing a few screws." Dongjin sighs and tells everyone, for the love of all that's left, not to do anything stupid. Just follow his lead. Their goal is to get as much food as possible, so the smart thing to do is figure out what Jaehyun wants and not screw it up. At least they're not completely brain dead. They all nod in agreement. But of course, there's one guy acting shady, the one named Byung-ho. Dongjun puts a hand on his shoulder and apologizes to the group, saying all this trouble's basically his fault. Did you summon those things, you idiot? Someone snaps. Looks like you really did call everyone over for a little party at his place. Byung-ho shrugs, saying it's fine. He came because he wanted to. But their leader swears they'll get some food, leave this place, and rescue his grandma. The kid lowers his head, thinking it's already too late. His grandma, who could barely get out of bed, facing a swarm of goblins like that, she wouldn't have stood a chance. Dongjun tells him to calm down, saying it's close by, and they'll go soon. But the kid doesn't look convinced. Then everyone hears a strange noise, and the door slowly starts to open. From behind it, of course, it's the protagonist holding bags full of food, saying he's here to help. Dude, maybe announce yourself next time. The guy almost smacked you in the face with a baseball. Now that the danger's passed, everyone's sitting together at the table. The mom looks embarrassed, apologizing that it's cramped since there are so many people. Dongjun apologizes too, saying it's their fault for showing up unannounced. Then the luxury meal arrives, rice with rice. The mom shyly says she just made what she could, hoping they'll like it. But honestly, rice with rice or not, it's a feast to them. They've been eating dirt and pebbles for days. Everyone's drooling at the sight. In an apocalypse like this, a hot meal like that's a miracle. The mom explains that it's all thanks to the ingredients Jae-yeon gave her. Without them, she would have only been able to serve rice with some tangerines, and that's it. Her trust level keeps going up, has already reached 50. The protagonist's impressed, the wife's loyalty is rising even faster than the husband's. Interesting. Very interesting. Everyone thanks her for the food and starts eating, eyes lighting up, practically trembling with joy as the mom tells them to dig in. She just forgot to feed her daughter, who's tugging on her sleeve asking for food. The mom gently refuses, saying she'll feed her later when the guests are gone. But the girls call her over to eat with them, pull her into their little group, and tell her to have some too. Come on, sit down already. The protagonist looks at the parents and says, you two sit down and eat too. What, you planning to just stand there like idiots? Fine then. They sit and everyone starts eating. As they eat, the protagonist realizes it's been ages since he's had a meal like this. Of course, it reminds him of the food his mother used to make. All he hopes now is that his family is still safe somewhere. After the meal, a little girl gets sleepy and her mother carries her away. The protagonist then clears his throat and says it's time to get down to business. He asks why they can't go to that grandmother's house, even if it's nearby. Dongjun explains, it's the goblins. They'd have to pass through a parking garage, and those creatures love dark, enclosed spaces. The place is crawling with them like a nest of cockroaches. He estimates there are at least a few thousand down there. The protagonist knows his current ability only extends up to the 30th floor, which means he can't do much to help in situations like that. Dongjun adds that all the apartment corridors lead down toward that same lower level, so none of them have the guts to go there. The protagonist mentions that there are exits on the side streets. Dongjun nods and says, yeah, that was their original plan, but those routes are even worse. There are monsters there that seem way more dangerous than goblins. The protagonist asks what kind. Dongjun says they look like wolves or bears, huge hulking beasts. The only reason they survived at all was because that monster was busy killing 50 goblins on its own. Yeah, that definitely sounds worse. He adds that they probably only made it out alive because it was so dark down there. Jae-yeon says it's inevitable. Eventually, they'll have to face creatures like that. Easy for him to say, sitting comfortably in his stocked-up apartment, that lucky bastard. Dongjun agrees but says they have their limits. The protagonist frowns, asking what exactly he means by that. The girl explains that since they use balls and bows, whoever keeps throwing stuff eventually ends up like that, worn out. That's when the protagonist says he can fix that problem. He just needs to take a look at their arrows and the baseballs. The guy shows him the ball, and immediately the system asks if he wants to register it. He grabs it and confirms yes. He also registers a bow that's still in good condition. Obviously, he's no fool. That kind of weapon is perfect for him too. Then he asks if everyone can use bows. No one answers, but he doesn't care. He just summons them and tells everyone to take this chance to learn how to use them. The group's trust level rises a bit, and Byung-ho gets excited, thinking that working with this kid might actually give them a real chance to save his grandmother. The whole group's pumped now, and with bows in hand, they'll be able to hunt much faster. The protagonist then says that before they move forward, they first need to drastically cut down the number of goblins around. Dongjun asks when the hunt starts, and the kid replies, tomorrow. It's already evening, after all, since he'd gone out to find them when the sun was setting. The protagonist says the sooner the better, and Dongjun agrees, though he's still a little hesitant. But Jae-yeon insists they have to rescue the boy's grandmother as soon as possible. The kid gets all fired up. Dongjun thinks it's a good idea, but wonders how exactly they're going to do that. Jae-yeon says they'll use a bait strategy. Everyone catches on. They're going to lure monsters into traps, but even then, they're still a bit nervous. They can only hope everything goes as planned. Then the system notifies him that Kyungjun, his father, has completed his mission. He gets a reward of 30,000 won. The protagonist realizes that money might also be a key to leveling up his citizens. Still, that's something you'll only use when absolutely necessary, and right now it's not. With that, Hyunjun's trust rises to 50, unlocking the vassal system. The moment he registers him, Hyunjin feels something strange and says something weird's happening to his body. Right. Jaehyun had rejected the first girl earlier, so Hyunjin becomes his first official vassal. And with that, Jae even gains a new ability, Summon Vassal. He can bring a vassal directly at him, though it has a 2-hour cooldown. Also, Hyunjin is now level 20, with the first servant title and the strength of a gorilla. As the first servant, all experience and gold he earns are doubled. On top of that, Jaehyun's ultimate eyes can summon his vassal within a 5-meter range of the house. But Jaehyun's curious about what that plus symbol next to the vassal tab means. When he checks, the system asks for 1 million gold to level up the vassal. Naturally, he's stunned by that price. He decides to ignore it for now and asks Hyunjin how he's feeling. The man says he feels oddly powerful, like he's suddenly much stronger. "Was this your doing?" he asks. Jaehyun smiles and confirms it was. The father keeps marveling, saying it even feels like he's gotten a few years younger. Jaehyun chuckles and tells him that since that's the case, he'll be joining the mission too. With citizens earning 10% more experience and his vassal earning double, their total gains will be enormous. Jaehyun explains the plan. Hyunjin needs to kill as many monsters as he can. The old man straightens up, still awkward and stiff, but says he'll do his best. The protagonist nods, saying he's counting on him. Next scene, they're already on the first floor. The guy with black hair tells Dongjin that it's pointless to keep looking around this area since it's all wrecked anyway. But Dongjin explains that, just like Jaehyun said, their group's mission is rescue. We see the mission details. Rescue all survivors in this building and bring them to the 30th floor. Dongjin elaborates that the plan is to lure all the goblins inside and wipe them out in the hallways. For that, they'll need a lot of people. And that's why finding survivors is the most important part of the job. The group looks fired up and says they're ready. It's time to begin. So they head toward rooms 101 and 102. But the moment they step inside, everyone freezes. They've been all excited a second ago, but now they're just staring in shock. The first thing they find is an entire family, torn apart. Holy hell, this job's gonna be hard, but not in the way they expected. Seeing one horrifying scene after another like that, it breaks anyone. In the next room, the window's shattered and everyone inside is dead too. Dongjin just covers his face and mutters that there's nothing left on the first floor. They should head up already. And up they go. The hallways are soaked with blood and bodies. At the 3rd floor, finally, the place doesn't look quite as apocalyptic. Though let's be real, they'll probably end up finding someone who starved to death in a locked room eventually. Creepy stuff. Since no one answers the knocks on the doors, they try another. A man with dark circles under his eyes peeks out and asks if they're really a rescue team. Dongjin confirms they are, and the guy immediately begs for some water. Dongjin hands him a bottle. The man tells him to explain what's going on, so Dongjin does. He says they're survivors from nearby apartments, here to rescue others and bring them somewhere safer. But the door slams shut right in their faces. A moment later, it opens again and the guy apologizes, saying he's just paranoid, but from now on, he'll trust them. Dongjin shakes his hand, introduces himself, and tells Gaeyoung and Hyren to escort him up to the 30th floor. It's a risky move, sending the 2 girls to guide him. The man hesitates, asking why they're going up instead of leaving the building. Then his son runs out, shouting that helicopters have finally arrived to save everyone. The girls quickly explain there are no helicopters, but there's food and hot water upstairs. His daughter pops out too, all excited, asking if that's true, and they tell her it is. Hearing that, the kids beg their father to stop wasting time and just come with them. Realizing he can't really argue, he sighs and agrees. Now the number of citizens has hit 40. On top of that, their total EXP and gold gain have jumped by 90%. That's insane. The protagonist's thrilled he's got 40 people now, even though most of them are old folks. Not exactly ideal for combat, but he's still a decent guy wanting to help everyone he can. Dongjin reports that this is all they could find. That's the total number. They checked every floor from 1 to 29. Many were already dead, but a few people were still alive in their apartments. The protagonist praises their work, thinking that Hyunjin's apartment must be packed now, but this should be enough. He activates his ultimate eyes and sees everyone hard at work, carrying chairs, setting up ropes, dragging cables, moving tanks. He nods, saying it's perfect. It's time to begin the second phase of the goblin hunt. In the hallway, Dongjin gathers everyone and explains how the plan's going to work. Their goal is to lure out the goblins hiding below. First, they'll head to the B1 section of the parking garage. They'll split into 2 groups, one to draw the creatures in, the other to take them down. After that, they'll move on to clear the ones deeper in on B2F. The guy with glasses asks the obvious questions. What if there are way more goblins than we expect? What if they're not isolated? What if we fail to lure them out? What if we get trapped under the bodies? The archer girl tells him to quit being such a coward. She'll put an arrow in every single one of those monsters' heads. He says they're overconfident. And that's when, of course, they all hear low growls behind them. They turn around, and there they are. The girl reacts instantly, pulling her bow and letting loose 2 clean headshots. Aimbot-level accuracy. The guy with the sledgehammer charges forward next, smashing his skull into pieces. These people are actually good, really good. Then the guy with the glasses asks why he didn't use the bow he'd been given. And that's when he realizes he's gotten too used to fighting without it. The girl tells them to look, because the goblin bodies are dissolving. It must be another one of Jaehyun's abilities. Seeing everyone fired up, Dongjin tells them to move out and head for B1. Bamho's smiling now. Maybe this kid really is the answer to saving his family. Trust among several citizens keeps rising while the protagonist sits in his room, monitoring everything. He didn't mean to just sit there watching, but in the end, that's the best way to manage things. Then Bamho, the one searching for his grandmother, finally reaches 50 trust points. That means he can now be registered as a vassal. As far as Jaehyun's concerned, the more vassals, the better. But something catches his attention. Byung-ho has 55 trust, yet 88 loyalty. Strange, but not bad. He decides to go ahead and register him immediately. Now down in B1F, arrows are flying everywhere, chaos in every direction. And now that Byung-ho is awakened, he feels a surge of power flooding through him. Everyone turns toward him, confused, wondering what's happening. Even the goblins seem blinded. Out of the shadows, countless eyes appear, glowing in the dark, making the goblins shriek and cover their heads in panic. Dongjin says he has no idea what's going on, but whatever it is, it's working, and he should take advantage of it and wipe them out. The girls fire more arrows, clean headshots, and one of them even lands a triple shot. Absolute precision. Still, there are way too many goblins. The whole horde's charging in now, flooding the place. Everyone's panicking, shouting that there are way more goblins than expected. Maybe the ones from B2 have come up. They rush through a door and try to close it, but several goblin arms are jammed in the gap, clawing wildly. They start smashing the door on them, crushing bones, but a dozen goblins are still trying to push their way through. That's when Hyunjin shouts for everyone to get back. He activates his gorilla strength ability and slams the door shut with one mighty hit. No exaggeration, goblin chunks must have flown everywhere. He's straining with all of his strength, yelling that he has to hold them off no matter what. Dongjin calls out for him to come upstairs. It's safe now. At that moment, Hyunjin releases the door, turns to run, and immediately trips, crashing face first to the floor. Seriously, this guy's speedrunning his own death. Lucky for him, the guy with the bat smacks a goblin that was about to lunge at him and tells him to get up. But it's too late. 5 or 6 goblins are already coming from behind. Just as one grabs his leg, Hyunjin suddenly vanishes right in front of everyone's eyes. The guy with the back freezes, realizing he's now completely alone. A goblin leaps at him. He swings the hammer and crushes its skull while the archers behind him fill the air with arrows, nailing every creature in sight. The whole team's unleashing a storm of arrows as the survivors bolt up the stairs, but there's still a swarm of goblins charging right behind them. Theoretically, though, that was the plan. Next chapter, under the light of the moon, several bear-like monsters are feasting on goblins. Gotta admit, it's kind of wild, but at least in this story, the monsters actually fight each other. Makes more sense than them only targeting humans. Meanwhile, upstairs, Hyunjin collapses in front of Jaehyun, gasping that he almost died. He's all scratched up, struggling to stand, confused about how he even got there. Of course, Jaehyun had been watching everything the entire time with his ultimate eyes. Thankfully, the summon vassal skill worked perfectly. Hyunjin's limping, his feet all torn up, asking what just happened. Jaehyun simply says that, at least he's still alive, and something like that shouldn't take long to recover from. But Jaehyun knows it's time to start researching medical supplies. He goes back inside his apartment, remembering that his mom always kept a small first aid kit to take care of him. In a world like this kind of thing is extremely valuable. The problem is he can only store 40 items, so he decides to put everything inside a box and then store the whole box. I had that idea, and it actually worked. Dan, I'm a genius. As much of a genius as the protagonist. Could I be a reincarnated one? Don't know, but I do know the full kit costs $77,000. He then calls the soapfoot guy who keeps falling over and tells him to show the wound. The protagonist says he's going to disinfect it, and the guy lets out a little groan. But at least that raises his trust again. Honestly, the protagonist thinks, I don't even know if I want this guy's trust. Useless idiot. I'm only keeping you alive because you've got a wife and 2 daughters who need you. For what? I'm not sure, maybe emotional support. He keeps helping him while wondering how the others are doing. It's better to use his eyes, so he activates them. Let's see what's going on out there. Same hallway, Flashbeard pops out from behind the barricade, lands a clean arrow to another goblin's head while one of the guys is smashing away. Everyone's holding bows, raining arrows on the goblins. This team's really strong. They built barricades. They're drawing enemies in, not hitting their own allies. Spoke too soon. Right after he praises them, a guy gets grabbed from behind by a goblin. Byung-ho shouts for him to watch out and charges in himself, smashing through 3 of them. He's completely possessed, diving straight into the fight and tearing everything apart. The others stare. Byung-ho can fight like that? I didn't know that. The protagonist watches, realizing everything's going great. Byung-ho's already level 30, and now he's awakened a teleport skill. He can move through space using mental power, reaching anywhere he can see, even carrying others with him. But of course, the farther and the more people, the more energy it burns. The protagonist sees it was absolutely worth registering him as a vassal, way better than that father. Another goblin takes an arrow through the skull while Dongjin yells for everyone to move. They ask where the water tank is and someone shouts that it's ready. Byung-ho sprints up the stairs, jumps the barricade, everyone hides. The tank tips over, dumping water all over the goblins. Then they yelled, "Activate it," and damn, they actually had a plan. The wires laid on the floor, plus the water. Electric current everywhere. The creatures are all fried. Nice. That strategy was brutal but smart. The protagonist earns a ton of experience, 330,001, and almost passes out from it. Expansion maybe, he thinks. A sphere of energy bursts out, spreading toward the goblins. The system alerts, hostile entities detected, commencing removal. The creatures are literally disintegrated, and gains even more experience. This story is reminding me of that Chinese one about domain systems, but better, he thinks. Meanwhile, at the corner of the parking lot, goblins are raging, pounding their fists. Then one of them notices something weird, looks back, and there's a giant bear. It starts devouring them. The goblins panic, screaming as the bear claws through them, tears them apart, flings them away. Those poor things have no chance. The parking lot turns into chaos, goblins screaming, the bear tossing bodies everywhere. But now the goblins are biting the bear's neck, face. It's a real brawl. It's getting bitten on the jaw, on the head, and the bear goes berserk. Everything explodes. Then suddenly, what? The bear just got citizenship, and it was a woman inside the bear. Dear God, I'll leave that one to you guys. Whoever's brave enough to handle that, go ahead. I'm out. The protagonist, still shaken up. Oh, it's because he's watching all of that unfold and wondering who she is. Oh, Yeonju, level 33, 9 trust points, and the ability of the Great Bear. Rank A. The protagonist, stunned by it. And then something beautiful happens. Everyone who took part in the mission starts surpassing 50 trust points. That means they can now be registered as vassals, and the first one the protagonist promotes is Deoksu. He's granted the title of Third Servant and awakens the Steel Knight ability. With that, he gains a halberd and a full suit of armor that covers his entire body, ranked at B. The protagonist notices that the father, who was level 20, received a rank C ability. Deoksu, who was level 25, got rank B, and Byungho, who was level 30, awakened teleportation. Actually, it's the other way around. The moment they awaken, their level is determined by the rank of the skill they receive. The rank itself seems completely random. And loyalty doesn't seem to affect it either, since Hamjun, the father who had high loyalty, got a rank C ability, while Deoksu, with low loyalty, still pulled a rank B. The protagonist trying to figure out what factors influence the appearance of high-rank skills. That kind of information would be critical for ensuring he could acquire more high-ranking vassals. After all, the worst thing would be to register someone only to find out their abilities are trash. Then the system announces he can now move freely through stairs, elevators, and hallways. The protagonist stands before the elevator, activates his ultimate eyes, and immediately spots that girl, Yeonju, falling among the goblins. He calls for Hyunjin. Oh boy, you're sending him on a mission again? Don't do it. Never mind, good. He just told him to go downstairs and get the girl. If someone's gonna die, better it be alone. Meanwhile, the people on the stairs are confused. When the goblins were being burned and fried, suddenly they exploded. Dongjin's sure something that powerful could only come from one person. Hyunjin remembers thinking the kid was strange, and not just because he somehow had running water and hot showers. Even the ingredients his wife used for cooking had come from him. It's starting to make no sense. This kid has too many abilities. Even Byungho, who used to be extremely shy, suddenly turned into a monster-slaying machine after meeting Jaehyun. Now they're sure, in a world like this, there's only one conclusion. They have to make sure this boy stays close to them. That's the only way they'll survive. Then the father throws himself into a swarm of goblins to save the bear girl. A child playing with a toy car in a park. What are the odds this ends tragically? Look at that. Hey, Mom. I love you. My son, you're amazing. You're not gonna suddenly die and traumatize me, right? Of course not, Mom. Relax. It's just 3 bloodthirsty goblins chasing me. I'm fine. The mom runs. The boy looks back, and trauma achieved. Yeonju wakes up in Jaehyun's apartment, sitting on the floor, hand over her face. He asks if she's Miss Yeonju, introduces himself, and says, "Nice to meet you." She, however, wants to know, was it him? He's confused. She asks again, was it him who made the goblins' heads explode? The protagonist not the type to hide things, he's honest. Yeah, that was me. She's in shock. What kind of ability is that, to blow up heads from a distance like that? Then she starts thinking, maybe he's the solution to something. She asked him to save her son. Wait, what? Her son? Wasn't the kid eaten by goblins? There's not much you can do about that. But she says that she just wants to see him one last time. Maybe recover his body. She says she misses him, and as she cries, strangely enough, her trust begins to rise. Jaehyun's certain the woman's son must already be dead, but still, is there really something he can do? He decides to try giving her a quest. Kill 1,000 goblins. No time limit. Reward, resurrection of your son. He asks the system if that's possible, but it replies that such a wish cannot be guaranteed. Which, yeah, obviously. There's no way the dead could just come back to life. But then, what? The system says he doesn't have enough funds to guarantee the resurrection. Should he try again after gathering sufficient funds? Jaehyun's completely confused. Could it really be possible to bring someone back like that? The problem is he has no idea how much it would take. Still, he's bold. He tells Yeonju that he thinks he might be able to help her. Maybe, just maybe, bringing her son back to life could be possible. He's not sure at all, but it feels like one of those things where you only find out at the end that it was never going to work anyway, you know? She asks if it's true, and he says yes, but not yet. He's sure there's some way. She immediately asks what she can do, and of course the protagonist already has an idea. With everyone in his team awakening new abilities, if they work together with her, they'd become much stronger. Obviously, the best move would be to make her one of his 7 vassals. But for now, he just tells her to stand up. He wants to introduce her to a few people. She goes over, greets Deoksu with a "nice to meet you," and asks if he's the human who hunts goblins with a baseball bat. The girl next to him is the archer. Everyone's confused. How does she know that? The bear girl just tilts her head and asks if they don't recognize her. She strikes a familiar fighting pose, but they're still lost. She's out of her mind, one of them mutters. Then she decides to show them. Her fur starts appearing, her face morphs, and suddenly, they all realize. She's the giant beast that was blocking the path earlier. She can even speak and admits, yes, she was that bear. In fact, she had helped them several times before. Ah, now it makes sense. Remember when they said they escaped by pure luck? It wasn't luck. It was her presence nearby, which I guess could still count as luck. Anyway, their favorite beggar shows up, saying now that everyone's together, he has something to announce. He's going to explain the plan to rescue Byung-ho's grandmother tomorrow morning. The number of goblins has dropped drastically, so it should be doable. The only one not participating is Hyunjin. Obviously, he's useless as always after breaking his fragile porcelain foot again. Yeonju, on the other hand, is joining the mission, and she actually looks cheerful. Well, maybe cheerful is a strong word, but she's clearly motivated. The protagonist says they'll talk again tomorrow, and everyone agrees. Then he calls over Byung-ho and Deoksu, saying he wants a word with them. He asks if they know why he called them. The 2 idiots obviously have no clue. Is it about her powers? One asks. The protagonist nods. It's exactly that. Both of them have already awakened their skills. Byung-ho has teleportation and Deoksu has Steel Knight. JM's plan is to make sure they understand their limits and how their abilities work before tomorrow's mission. The system then generates a group mission. Each of them must demonstrate their awakened ability within 1 hour to receive a strength boost. Failure means sleeping outside for the night. The protagonist figures that sounds fair enough. Deoksu asks if it works like Dongjin's ability. The guy's puffing up his chest, eager, saying, "All right, tell me, how do I use this Steel Knight thing?" Jaehyun explains that, in theory, he should be able to summon armor and a halberd. As Deoksu tries to figure out how, suddenly, Byung-ho vanishes beside him. Everyone's confused, then he reappears across the room. Turns out, it really worked. With this power, the mission would be a lot easier. He thanks our guy right away, pushing his trust even higher. However, the protagonist tells him to wait and says he shouldn't try to save her yet. He doesn't know how to control the ability, and it definitely has limits based on mental strength. Before running around using it, he should practice a lot and figure out how to aim, what the range is, and everything else. Byung-ho says he understands, and right then the 2 of them feel a strange energy beside them. Deoksu has drawn the halberd and the full suit of armor. Dan, his armor looks slick. Say what you will. Inside a dungeon, that would be badass. It's kind of out of place in an apartment hallway, sure, but in a dungeon, it would be pure flex. His trust goes up too when the protagonist calls out to Byung-ho, asking if he can, for example, teleport to that building across the way. Brave kid, huh? He takes a look and decides he'll try. What if he appears midair and falls and dies? Imagine that. Imagine if that actually happened. The protagonist then issues a mission. Move by teleport to Unit 113 within 3 minutes, and you'll gain increased teleport efficiency. I think he registers the mission, and then their coins get spent to level the kid up, you know? Byung-ho stops in front of the window, starts focusing, and becomes wrapped in an aura. Suddenly, he vanishes in front of Deoksu and reappears on the other side in another apartment. He waves from far away, and the mission completes. Obviously, what happens? He burned too much mental energy and passed out like a complete idiot. Lucky fool that the protagonist has summoned Vassal and yanks the kid back immediately. It's busted. Send the kid, kill something, pull him back. Total cheese. The fool's out cold. You can tell the teleport's great, but the stamina it consumes is absurd. At least his status shows he's fine. It's just a matter of resting. Good thing you didn't try anything crazier, or he would have blacked out there and lost. Right then, the protagonist calls for Deoksu and asks if he works out. He's a little confused, but he gets handed the legendary Saitama routine. Doing push-ups and squats in that armor that must weigh around 50 kilos. Brutal. The guy actually pulled it off, finished it for real. The protagonist impressed. Sure, the guy seems athletic, but stamina like that is extraordinary. Suddenly, the system starts some kind of evaluation, and he's not sure what's going on. Deoksu asks if it's over, and our boy says yes, he can rest. With that, the evaluation finishes and his strength ticks up a little. Our protagonist's strength, huh? Who would thought? Pretty soon he'll be punching monsters himself. That obviously changes the game for him, since he won't have to rely only on other people. Next day, in the city's back alleys, Dongjin looks back and tells everyone to run. They're sprinting full speed, but now some bodybuilder goblins are closing in from behind. Deoksu glances back, sees the creatures closing in, and decides he's got to handle it. He summons the armor and delivers the first halberd strike. The beauty of that weapon is that it pierces, it tears, it slices, and he strings together a whole combo while the rest of the goblins keep advancing. But a bunch of goblins ignore the guy in armor and go after the rest of the team. Poor things, they take a rain of arrows straight through the skull. People in this story have ridiculous aim. I thought it was the Queen of the Bow, but it was Byung-ho who tells Deoksu not to worry. Anything that slips by, he'll handle. Deoksu grins and says he gets it, while the goblins are basically freaking out now. They turn tail and run. Jet out of here, everyone's dying, scatter. But they're screwed. They run right into transformed Yeonju. One goblin's practically crying. People in this story are really cruel to monsters. Arrows, halberds getting torn in half, brutal. Dongjin tells Byung-ho it's time to move and go save his grandmother. He runs ahead, thanking him. And with that, Yeonju completes a mission. Her evaluation finishes while the protagonist just watching with his all-seeing eyes. He's thinking this evaluation term might be a mistranslation. It's probably supposed to mean quest, right? Because she just finished one and received 132,001. He notices the amount's different from before. Oh, it really is a quest reward, but it seems that depending on the quest, the reward he gets as the quest giver also changes. He's trying to figure it out. And then Byung-ho also completes a quest, but apparently he's already hit his daily quest limit. The system evaluates the quest he finished, and the protagonist, feeling a little anxious, then jackpot. The system congratulates him and gives him one skill point, exactly what he needed most. Meanwhile, Byung-ho is moving forward through teleportation. Feels like he's about to find out his grandmother became monster food. He bursts through the door, calling for her, only to find her lying there. She's just sleeping peacefully. Wait, what? The old lady's alive. A monk who cultivated immortality or something. She recognizes him, smiling faintly. Byung-ho's overjoyed, hugging her tight and apologizing for taking so long, while also silently thanking Ji-yeon in his heart. His loyalty instantly hits 100. Yeah, the protagonist really did right by him. And weirdly enough, when it hit 100, it unlocked another vassal slot. Ji-yeon hadn't expected that to happen. Oh, and now he can level up his vassals too, except of course it's pure capitalism. It costs just a casual 100 million. No big deal, right? The protagonist just mutters, damn capitalist game. He apologizes to Byung-ho. He's gonna have to grind a lot of missions before they can afford that. His little rant's cut short when he suddenly hears the elevator. He wonders who's arriving, he has no idea. Activating his eye, he sees a couple standing by the door, carrying boxes and asking if anyone's there. Actually, they're at Haiwon's door. She asks who they are, and the girl introduces herself as Kim Daebin, with the guy being Minho. They both lived in Unit 1701. Haiwon asks what brings them there, and Daebin explains they need help. She apologizes, but says she really has to ask this. Can she take a shower? Good grief, people in this world treat showers like divine blessings. Haiwon's confused, but Daebin insists all she wants is a shower. Haiwon sighs and says fine, she can come in. Meanwhile, the guy, who's built like a tree, asks where he should put the box. She asks what's inside, and they say it's just a bit of food. A bit? That's a mountain of canned goods. Daebin explains it's kind of an apology for banging on their door and interrupting her shower. Then she notices something in the corner, an arch and a few baseball bats. She asks if that bat belongs to the apartment's owner. Haiwon says no, it was left behind recently by someone who came by during all the chaos. The protagonist watches all of this and sees that for now, they don't seem like bad people. Obviously, he's gonna have to go meet them later, talk things through, and bring them into the group. He needs as many people as possible to keep expanding to the other buildings. Then the system alerts him he hunted a red tiger. He gains more experience and 39 million gets deposited. Even the protagonist confused. What the hell just happened? He activates his eye to see, and there's Dongjin and the others, covered in blood lying on the ground. The red tiger's dead, and Yeonju's collapsed nearby. He can't even tell how things got to this point. Yeah, maybe he should have been watching earlier. Right away, the system says it's discovered new people who can be offered citizenship, and asks if he wants to offer it. The protagonist, there's a lot happening at once, wonders who these people are, then sends the offers. There's a huge list of names he's not going to read through right now. When they show up, they'll find out who's who. Also, the system says that now that the number of citizens has reached 50, everyone gets an ability called the Power of Trust. The protagonist wants to know if anyone's injured. Meanwhile, Byung-ho is carrying his grandmother on his back and Deoksu is carrying Yeonju. The protagonist realizes the situation is not good. Of all the people who had to show up, they had to be the strongest one he had. They're fleeing while the archery ace fires perfect shots from behind. But then, everyone suddenly notices their bodies feel lighter. The power of trust increases all attributes by a certain percentage based on how much they trust the protagonist. Since everyone in that assault group has been with him a while and now has 50% more trust, that's a huge buff. Byung-ho's sure it's a Jaden buff. Damn, the protagonist is busted. He really does look like the story's lead. Also, Hiren's trust rises to 50 along with Gaeung's. They're the two girls from the archery squad. He registers them as vassals and they feel the power arriving. Gaeung gets the pierce ability and Hiren gets poison mist. I won't lie, I still don't know which is which of the two, only that there are two girls. Okay, now we finally see. The one in purple is the Pierce Queen. Her arrow zipped from side to side, and apparently she activated it without even understanding how. Meanwhile, the protagonist creates a mission for her to kill 10 creatures using that skill. That one's tricky. The real problem will be how to use that poison mist. It's a good ability, rank B, but it risks affecting allies. He'll have to keep that in mind and study it later. Gaon completes her mission and has already hit the daily quest cap. The protagonist decides to check on the rest of the citizens to see what's going on. There's a guy in the bathroom, looks like Deoksu, collecting some water. There's a couple gathering instant noodles. That's why those people weren't in Dongjin's group. They already had enough food to survive. But then he sees a woman collapse in the middle of the room. In the next second, he's sprinting over. That's because Kim Daejong, level 26, had low trust but the heal ability. That's obviously essential. The protagonist's life isn't easy. Geez, he has to keep an eye on 50 people all the time. People are dying outside, collapsing in their rooms, eating, passing out, drinking, while he has to stay in that little eye, watching everything, directing everything. His talent is broken, but it's hard work. It's not just sitting around. You think he's Sung Jinwoo? Right after that, he's standing in front of room 2902. He opens the door. The problem is it looked like it had one of those locking systems. However, now he had an invisible hand ability, the last one he received. So he just closes his eyes and starts imagining the thing being destroyed. A pair of pliers appears in front of him and he uses it to break the lock. The door opens, he runs in and reaches the girl. Incredible. He gets there and says, "Hey, you okay? Wake up, please." But obviously her condition was worse than he imagined. He notices signs of dehydration and realizes it, right? Just like I said earlier, she probably got trapped in the room, didn't want to leave, and ended up like this, totally wrecked. Too clever for her own good. He's wondering if there's anything nearby he can do to help her. Then he notices something strange. On the floor next to her, there's a bottle of water. He decides not to worry about that for now, because the priority is to save her. He gives her a mission. Take one breath and recover from the dehydration. Wow, it worked, but it cost 10 million. Yeah, that was expensive. He asks if she can wake up, but she's completely shattered and wants to know who he is. The protagonist introduces himself and says he lives in the unit above hers. She then asks, "What are you doing here?" He explains that she looked really bad, so he forced the door open and came in. The girl seems to remember something, starts crying and covers her face with her hands. For sure she'd lost a lot of people and just wanted to move on. But not during Jae-in's shift. He tells Kim Daejong that he desperately needs her help. One of his friends was severely injured. She seems a bit hesitant, wondering what this crazy person is talking about. How could she help someone? That seems impossible. And why is he saying she could treat someone? Does he know she's a nurse? At least from the way he's begging for help, he doesn't seem dangerous. For now, she decides she'll help. Then the protagonist goes into the system and activates the mission for her. She would have to heal Oh Yeonju, the bear-like girl, and she'd receive an upgrade reward. He tells her to rest and says he'll bring the injured person. Then she gets confused when he tosses some oranges at her feet. She wants to know what that is. She was in shock because she dropped out of the little system, right? He just turns and says he'll explain later. He asks her to recover, since she's very weak, and says he'll be back soon. But the girl is right there. She looks like she's starving, freaking out, and wondering if she's dreaming when she sees those oranges. When he gets into the room, of course, her confidence had risen a bit. Naturally, it was going to be harder. Nobody in this world trusts someone who breaks into their home out of nowhere. But the time was coming. While he's thinking that, suddenly there's another red tiger chasing the group. The protagonist instantly recognizes it as the beast that scored so many hits and nearly killed everyone. People are running like crazy, but as always, they're all clumsy, slipping and falling like idiots. They shout for Hiren to get up. The tiger's about to bite. She sees she's going to die, then she disappears. We already expected that. The protagonist was watching. Kellogg's is standing there confused. Meanwhile, Hiren shows up in front of our guy, exhausted and coughing. He realizes once again it was a close call. At least the tiger's hesitation bought everyone some time to keep running. At that same moment, another person gets registered as a citizen. Byung-ho teleports up to him, asking him to look after his grandmother. The protagonist doesn't stop for a second. He just tells the boy to wait a bit. Byung-ho asks why. Could it be because the rest of your group is being chased by a giant tiger? Jae-hyun is greedy. He's thinking about how to kill the tiger, not how to save people. The beast is closing in on the group, and Dongjin sees that not everyone can escape, so if he does something. He grabs the ball, throws it at the tiger, but the animal dodges to the side, though it takes a glancing blow. The tiger roars louder as Gaon calls for Dongjin. The tiger comes in to bite, and Dongjin realizes he can't run straight anymore. He has to move sideways and tells everyone to flee toward the building. The tiger's coming in for a strike, and this one's going to land. He's trying to get to the parking lot. The tiger's jaws are right behind him and closing in. Then, bam, something appears and slams the tiger to the ground. The protagonist, using his invisible hand, kind of forms a metal rod and starts choking the tiger. Everyone's in shock as the beast is lifted off the ground. At that moment, a mission pops up for Gaon, and the protagonist figures he personally can't go. But if she goes hunting, he'll get 4 times the loot. She stands there, focused and fearless, in front of the dying tiger, gives it one more look, releases an arrow, and it seems she killed it. You hunted the red tiger and gained an insane amount of EXP, plus 63 million was deposited into your wallet. Oh, but he's going to need a lot of money just to wake the girl. That cost 10 million. Also, of course, everyone's trust and loyalty rose. Dongjin surpasses 30 and can now be registered as a vassal. Funny, When he appeared, I thought he'd be the first. With that, we're back at the house with Daejun treating our dear bear-like girl, and the protagonist thinks he was lucky to find this woman right now. He asks Dongjun what happened. What's up with that red tiger? Dongjun explains that the house where Banho's grandmother lived is red tiger territory. They struggled to kill one, but when another showed up they realized they didn't stand a chance. The protagonist notes it's strange that there were no goblins in the area. Now it makes sense. There were so many red tigers the goblins stayed away. Thanks to the tigers, his grandmother is alive. Daeyoung's missions start completing and she receives 73,000 won, while Daejeong is happy that the job is done. Our kid congratulates her, but she just wants to know if she can go back home. Then someone asks them to wait. I can't believe it. It's that Hyunjin, that useless dad, asking them not to keep gathering in his place all the time. If I were this protagonist, I'd toss him out the window right now, but of course the protagonist is a decent guy and won't do that. Someone mentions that Unit 2901 has power now, electricity's working, so yeah, they can live there for now. The protagonist then tells Danbin that Units 2101 and 2102 will also have power now. She's given the job of telling people to use the bathrooms and take showers in those units. Strangely, the protagonist says they can keep one unit and the rest of the people will share the other. Oh, but there's a reason for that. They'll get this advantage because the protagonist wants them to act as messengers for our kid. Basically, when he needs something done or needs to tell people something, they'll have to rush out and pass the message. He already gives the first order. Tell everyone that the first team to kill 100 goblins as fast as possible will win an empty house with everything working. That house can hold up to 10 people and everyone will get the same benefits. The only catch is it depends on the floor of the house, since they can only work on the upper floors. Jaehyun realizes he's going to have to make those with power want to prove their worth. Only then will they get what they want. So the mission is created: hunt 10 goblins. Reward: a small amount of experience. The failure condition: forbidden from using the shared facilities. Luxury is over, time to work. And now there's a desperate guy already running the parking lot, being chased by a bunch of goblins. Seeing the door at the back, he says it's just a little further, but the little green hand is about to grab his coat. He slides past and tells the group he's made it. There are other survivor groups. The blonde brother praises the work, pulls out his spear, and drives it in. These guys here are brave, not afraid of goblins. Take that, loser. Drop dead. The little green ones, as usual, are getting beaten. Everything's chaotic. One of them in the back, hand on his face, realizes everyone's going to die and bolts. Oh boy, look at the face of that psycho, claiming he's going to show them something fun. Slicked back hair, eyebrow piercing. He's the villain type who hurls his spear and of course nails the kid like a Spartan. The friend praises him and now he wants to know how many they killed. One killed 22, the other 23. Apparently there are some twin brothers, huh? Right then, the red one says they killed over 100, perfect. But the kid who lured the goblins is there demanding Sun Yub explain himself. He said there would be at most 10 goblins. The guy's already furious, asking why he's being so ungrateful. The kid insists there clearly weren't just 10 goblins. The guy tells him to calm down. The result was good, and besides, everyone's going to get a house. But the kid says obviously he almost died. Sun Yub steps forward telling his little brother to take a look. Who came up with this hunting method? Wasn't it him? So yeah, he's the captain and came up with a plan. Also, the spears were made by the brothers. The kid didn't trust his running ability, so that was the only thing he could do. If he doesn't feel like staying on the team, he can leave. Having him or not doesn't make that much difference. The twins both try to break up the fight, telling Sunmin, the runner, to calm down a bit. Meanwhile, Sun Yub's saying that this bastard's got some nerve to say anything after just running away. But they decide to turn around fast and go claim the reward on the 21st floor. It was time for them to win a new home. But when they get there, Davin says, unfortunately, another team already took the reward. The others are all open-mouthed, not understanding, asking who could have been that fast. He tells Davin, hold on a second, stop joking and say it already. This is our spot, who hunted faster than us. She says she's not kidding, just look, the people are right there. That's her brother, who I don't think is part of this, and 2 old men. There's no way those 2 geezers hunted that fast. She explains something about them giving up the house so their daughters wouldn't have to do quests. Davin, confused, says Juho's daughters are too young, but the old men insist they're adults already, so they count for the mission. I have no idea who this Mr. Juho is because that couple over there is Hyunjin. The guy passing the info, Minho, also says that besides the rooms, they get bows and arrows. She asks if they'll keep hunting and he says yes. Everyone has to keep killing goblins in the area. Suddenly, Sun Yub tells the 2 to shut up, asking what's going on, that they're giving special privileges to these guys. Clearly it wasn't fair. Davin says Jaehyun knew this would happen and told the other teams that finished to go up to the 30th floor. Davin smiles and tells them to go grab the new reward. Jaehyun would be waiting for them. In the elevator, the guys are laughing, saying, this Jaehyun, everyone talks like they respect this kid who's probably younger than all of us. What a joke. The twins agree. This idiot thinks he's God or something. The guy who became a cult leader in this apocalypse gets mentioned. Someone in the background says, guys, we're going to get the reward. How about we just keep quiet and take what we can? Because everyone's goal seems to be backed by him. but everyone stares and calls him a bastard. Crazy. At that moment, they reach the 30th floor and the door opens. The protagonist strolls onto the walkway with his hand in his pocket and says hi to the guys. Suddenly, everyone's stunned. The redhead is shaking. "I'm Sunyup." Our kid greets him and says he saw how the teen hunted and made great use of the barrier. That was well done. Now the redhead's in shock. "How did you know, buddy?" The protagonist ignores him and says he'll give electricity, water, and gas to units 1301 and 1502. The guy asks, "Huh? How are you going to do that?" The protagonist just says they killed 100 goblins, so they deserve it. Also, he's not a cult leader and has no intention of becoming anyone's god. Then he has one last request. So those 3 idiots who were talking crap, they got screwed. Next room, they're running into a pack where now some buffed goblins and an orc are behind them. The guys from the corner, all in shock, and someone yells to throw. Danyan stands there, smiles, grabs a spear from his back, and says it's fine. He already awakened with the Knight and Lancer class, level 33. Pretty high rank. His first skill is Throw, rank B, which consumes mental energy to hurl a spear, plus Piercing, which lets him fill an object with mana so it easily penetrates targets. He also has the Knight class that increases his stats based on loyalty. He throws the spear and it hits the beast right in the belly, sending it flying backward. Another tries to close in the same instant and faces him, but from behind comes a perfectly aimed arrow. It's her, the Queen of the Air. He jumps on her back, grabs another spear, and finishes off the last one. Damn, these people are good. That beast was level 19, and he earns 3,000,001. A bit later, he finds some other survivors and rescues them. As always, our boy offers citizenship. With that, they're reaching 200 citizens now, and that means he can start collecting taxes. Oh yeah, this is the beginning of the end. Capitalism has arrived. He collects 10% of everything citizens have as a tax, but there's a 30-day cooldown. The protagonist realizes that everything he provides for these people, a portion of it will come back to him. But he also realizes it would take him about 10 months to collect enough to make it fully worthwhile, and he doesn't have that much time. He needs to send people out soon to save his parents, so he changes the distribution rate to 30%, saying it'll be an investment. Right then, the house skill reaches level 10, and he feels pain in his chest. The building zone starts expanding, now covering all the floors. The system notifies him that he owns an entire apartment complex, and with that, he receives 1,000,001,000. On top of that, the construction function has been unlocked. He immediately checks what he can build. A solar power generator for 133 million, a store for 219 million, a training center for 300 million. The solar panel would generate 30,000,001 worth of energy per year. But to him, that doesn't make sense. It costs 130 million, so he'd need to let it run for 5 years just to break even. He refuses to build the panel right away, saying there's a better way to spend that money, like leveling up Danyan or someone else. That's when he realizes the 1,000,001,000 is marked as funds, and funds can only be used for construction. But in that case, at least it won't affect his wallet. If that's how it works, of course he's going to use it. So he decides to build the first panel. But he already suspects one won't be enough and asks if he can build another. Unfortunately, only one per building. Then he checks what the store is about. Basically, it's a system that lets other people access the items he can craft. Naturally, they pay, and he earns. That's great because in this building, most of the time, people waste energy sharing resources, walking back and forth. With the store, things would be much easier. Plus, he can set any price he wants, making the money distribution even more efficient. The system asks him where the store should be located, and he decides to place it in Unit 101. 47 hours until it's ready. Now the last thing missing, the training center. A basic facility where people can increase their strength and endurance. When they train there, efficiency is doubled, and if the person is below level 15, it's tripled so beginners can level up faster. The protagonist likes that. It's the perfect place to assign missions to people who are too weak to go hunting. He decides to convert the second floor into a training center, which will take 71 hours to complete. Then the system notifies him that the original store skill has reached level 5. He can now register up to 500 items, and a modification feature has been added, meaning similar items can also be purchased. Curious, he clicks on water, and several brands appear. Same thing when he clicks on ramen. Different flavors show up. That's extremely useful. While he's exploring the system outside, Deoksu is tearing through Orcs. The beast strikes his shoulder, but the armor holds and he counters with a halberd slash. At that moment, Danyan calls him over and asks, what happens if he throws the halberd? The idiot's kind of confused, wondering why he's asking that, and his friend just asks to borrow it, saying he wants to test something. He starts imbuing the weapon with an aura and sends it flying. Deoksu asks what the hell the guy is doing, but his friend tells him to calm down and asks him to try unsummoning and resummoning the weapon. Right away, he gets what he's trying to do, stretches out his big hand, and the item reappears. He praises Danyan, calling him a genius, and Danyan shrugs it off like it's nothing. Then Hiren says she has to go because she needs to grab some arrows, but she hears something behind her and an arrow quiver lands at her feet. She's a bit baffled. What our guy gains is the omnifocus ability. It lets him use another skill while he's observing an area. The badass returns to shooting arrows, right? Capitalism keeps getting stronger. It won't stop for a second now, girl. The group finishes another mission and he gets another 2 million won. Gayoung levels up too. The protagonist is excited. Really, everyone could keep gaining more attributes and tackle harder missions. He's starting to have a little hope. The problem is his father's house is 10 kilometers away and it would take at least 3 hours on foot to get there. So he leaves the room, takes the elevator, and goes up to the rooftop. From there, he can see the whole city destroyed. He really needs to hurry. The fastest way is with Dongyun's group. We see that Moon, the glasses guy, has already reached 50 trust and received a crow ability. It isn't the best for fighting, but it's good for reconnaissance. Yeonju is still at 12 trust, the bear girl. Dajun, the healer, is already up at 60 easy to trust. The protagonist wants to make them a perfect team because a healer throwing heals on the bear would be a solid combo. The problem is Yeonju still doesn't trust him enough to become a vassal. Hilda already had a blessing ability that temporarily raises someone's physical power by 70% and she has rank B armor. The protagonist realizes that those who had good abilities before he awakened have an absurd advantage. He tries one more time to give Yeonju a mission to resurrect her son, but unfortunately, he doesn't have the money. After those 2 red tigers that dropped so many millions, I can't even remember how much. There's obviously nothing to do but hunt level 40 monsters to get even bigger rewards. Brutal protagonist. Time limit 24 hours and penalty is death. However, the system won't allow it because he doesn't have enough money to pay someone soloing a level 40 monster, you know. It'd be too expensive for one person to take on a level 40 alone. Then he gets a reward from a group that hunted an orc and he gets an idea. Instead of making the mission just for her, he creates a group mission for everyone. Hunt a level 40 monster. The initial plan was to put Yeonju beside him, though I don't know if giving her a mission where she dies if she fails is a good idea. A little later, he's back in the room and someone's desperately pounding on the door, begging him to open it. Oh, it's her, asking if it's true. Now he gets it. The mission to save her son became possible because he's risking the lives of multiple people. Incredible. Everyone's going to die now if they don't save this woman's son. But she's emotional and thanking him. I'm sure the resurrection will be half-ass, since she says she only wanted to spend one day with him just to see him. So clearly the day she gets to see him, he'll disappear right after. At least with that, the woman's loyalty finally exceeded the required amount and she's registered as a vassal. Shortly after, the protagonist is testing his power. He notices that he can, for example, mess with the electricity and the lights, turn a faucet on and off just by looking. Each time he's getting more control over keeping his composure. He feels like he's become a little wizard, totally full of power. A notification pops up saying he earned 320,000 from the shops. Since he profits about 20%, that means the store sold over 1.5 million. He checks it out, and a bunch of people are on the first floor buying stuff. One guy orders a beanie and asks how much they've got, and the chubby guy in the back says, sadly, 10,000. That bao costs 150, so it'll take about 15 days. Another person says that makes no sense. They still have to eat. And that other guy walks off saying, if you're so clever, you do the math. Wait, are you also terrible at math, jerk? The protagonist notices that now that everyone has to use their own money, it's creating a bit of hostility. The good part is that hostility is being aimed at the goblins, which have become a source of income. Everyone wants to hunt if they can actually buy things. The citizens were leveling up, he was getting more and more people, and things were just getting better. The population had already reached 789 out of 11,000. Everyone got more SSP and more money from working for him. The kids sure things are going to start growing exponentially. Now that I think about it, that little jingle was probably stuck in his head all day. With 700 people out hunting, look at Yeonju swiping. She rips 3 apart mid-charge, bites another, tears another open. She's got her teeth sunk into a neck, kills one more, and transforms back. Her friends shout to the one she clobbered to check if she's okay. She says she's fine, a little hurt, but it's nothing. The girls are like, you psycho, take it easy. You're going to die. She apologizes if it looks like she's trying to steal all the kills. The other 2 say they're not complaining, they're actually worried about her. Jaehyun seems pumped. Putting those 2 together really worked perfectly. Yeah, it's a strong trio. I think this pack might be the strongest in the building. The bear in front, Hilda behind, the other shooting arrows. I'm such a loudmouth, huh? For God's sake. I said that, and the 3 of them freaked out, trembling. Something comes from the end of the line, a huge stomp, and it looks like some kind of orc boss. The 3 are totally covered, while the beast just stands there glaring. The split second later, Yeonju transforms and charges in full force. The giant orc heads their way and throws a spear, but she claws it right in the chest. She's holding her ground. Gaeum is off to the side, eyes locked, fires an arrow that flies like a bullet toward the orc, but the beast manages to turn and block it in midair. At the same time, Yeonjung leaps in for another bite and pins the orc to the ground while it tries to hold her. Blood everywhere, and another one is finished off. It was only an orc captain, level 28. I thought it would be stronger. Because they killed it, a request for Jaehyun's outpost is completed. The outpost is added to the list of constructions. A safe zone that can be built outside the house. When activated, it becomes part of the house and grants the same effects. Almost the same effects, but it only stays functional if there's a citizen with the night talent or higher present. And if a non-citizen stays in that place for more than 1 day, the zone gets destroyed. Also, it costs 1.3 billion. It sounds scary, but apparently the protagonist has killed so many orcs that he's got money to invest. The construction would take 7 days, and he decides he can't do it now. Otherwise, he'd lock the whole group up there for a week. That time loss is too big, he can't waste it. Besides, this Jianpo station area seems kind of unnecessary now since he already wiped out the monsters. That's why he decides not to build this time. If he could build it where his parents are, that would be much better. If they were inside an area he controls, he could protect them much more safely. With plans set, he decides tomorrow he'll send Dongjin's group to rescue his parents. The glasses guy is watching, stunned. How can a human tear an orc apart with bare hands? Well, he's not exactly human unless you're staring at a bear standing in front of you. He already knew how strong she was before Jaeyen's blessing. What he doesn't get is how the kid managed to convince her to help them. Maybe she gained a new ability. That's when the group shows up, calls for him, and says they need to go. He summons the crow that lands on his arm and praises the protagonist, saying he's a good kid. That's the call. They need help catching one more. Off you go, little bird. And there he goes, flying over the whole city. Moon is able to share his view and says there's no problem. They can leave. But there's a little rat sneaking behind him. They get off the subway anyway until he looks back and sees the thing staring at him. The rat jumps. Oh boy. And it looks like it's following. Get out of here, rodent. Back at the apartment, everyone's gathered with our kid who's begging them to help. I think I got confused because I thought he'd already set a 1-day limit mission. But it looks like the time limit was much longer because the woman's standing in front of him pretty calm. As requested, everyone's kind of staring at each other and he says he knows the odds are low. Dongo asks if he's sure his parents are in that place since obviously he's going to answer no. There's no way he could know, right? But Byung-ho interrupts and says of course they'll help. He actually wants to help. The others are greedy because it's thanks to the protagonist that everyone's alive. They say just tell them what to do and they'll do it. The protagonist explains that now that all the orcs in Jianpo Station are dead, they have to move on to the Songmyeon area. The exit to Jigalchi is the closest spot to his parents, and that's where they have to go. Once they're over there, he'll guide them to where his parents are. He knows it'll be too risky to cross everything at once, so the initial objective is to take control of that new station. I'm thinking that little rat might be someone's power, like the crow, you know? Kiddies, they find another group. About time, right? You expect to find a hostile group after finding 700 people, but no. At that point, Yeonju asks them to wait and wonders if he can bring family members using his abilities. He could, but he's an idiot and wants everyone to risk dying like fools. The protagonist thinks he obviously already tried. For example, he could assign a mission to teleport someone there as a reward. That's why he was so excited about the feasibility of Byung-ho's idea. But of course, the system didn't allow him to give that reward or that mission. That's obvious. His zone of influence has to reach where the person is. And considering his parents are 10 kilometers away, at this pace, by the time he gets there, everyone will be dead. He just says that, unfortunately, he's not powerful enough. There are things he still can't do. But he tells her she doesn't have to worry. The promise he made to her is a vow he'll keep. Her trust suddenly rises and she smiles, thanking him for being honest. Our protagonist thanks everyone too and asks them to rest. Dong-hyun is leaving, waving goodbye to our kid, when a message pops up saying an unregistered person is asking to join. He offers citizenship on the spot and someone named Seo Yu-jin accepts. Level 31 with the Rat Queen ability. The protagonist finds it suspicious because she already seems awakened. My god, when we saw the little rat earlier, I thought she was controlling it, but it looks like the girl might actually be a rat. She's wondering who these people are. She can't believe humans are strong enough to kill orcs. Maybe they're all awakened, but how is that possible? She decides to stay on watch, gather information, and try and understand what's going on. It's getting hard for her to deal with all of it, but her abilities should be enough to get what she wants, so she chooses to observe. That's when she starts walking around the protagonist's complex and reaches the building. What she sees makes her drop her jaw. There are a ton of kids playing a playground. Why are so many people in the same building? A bunch of mothers and everything. What kind of building is this? She has to learn more. She tries to enter and hits the barrier with her head. A message warns that entry is prohibited and asks if she wants to obtain citizenship. She gets all excited, squeak, 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 obviously saying yes. The message won't change. She wonders if maybe it's impossible to become a citizen as a rat, but she gets it. She starts up, enters the building all happy. Of course, as soon as she's inside, everyone panics and wants to stomp the poor thing. Ratatouille transform back now, for God's sake. She runs to the side and ends up in the gym room. Wow, that guy on the right is holding the floating weight. Magic. The kid doesn't even have his fingers around it. Now that's strength. Everyone's working out, the women all sweating and pushing themselves, and the rat girl's confused, wondering what the hell this place is. Back at the subway, it turns out she really was controlling the rat. Now there's a gothic girl with straight cut bangs who's excited, saying she's found a way to survive. The obvious problem is getting there. She's at Songmyeon Station and the easiest route would be through the subway, but that monster in the middle of the way is the issue. On the other hand, if she has any chance, it's because of that. There's no place she can't reach. When she died, the protagonist received a notification that someone had hunted a domesticated rat. He gets 1,400 XP and then sees that the rat queen had an A-rank skill. When a rat is tamed by her, she can take control and also share all its senses. The protagonist realizes that apparently wasn't exactly her there. He used Absolute Eye to try to find her, but no matter where he looks, he can't see anyone. Then he gets an idea. He posts a mission offering a Coke and a chocolate bar if she visits him within 48 hours. But he has a more creative plan. Remembering Yanzhong asking why he couldn't bring family members, he understood it's because they weren't in his influence zone. On the other hand, anyone who was a citizen was inside the zone since he always received the experience from what they farmed. In other words, as long as someone was a citizen, he was always connected to that person. So he creates a mission for her to visit the apartment within 10 seconds. The reward is the chocolate bar and the failure condition is that she gets summoned to that place. Fortunately, the mission succeeds. He's impressed that you can actually use failure conditions to make things happen the way he wants. The good part is that if this works like that, he could, for example, turn his parents into citizens and bring them here that way. All he'd need to do is create an outpost and the plan would be perfect. He's going to send Dong Yun's group to set up a citizenship base for his whole family and bring everyone over to be happy. Oh boy, you're dreaming. He's sure he's either going to find everyone dead or maybe save one or two at best. The question is, how much is all this going to cost? He decides to run a test and issues the mission. The seconds start counting down and he prays it's under 1 billion. Siu Yejin fails the quest and 31 million are spent. He breathes a sigh of relief. 30 million isn't that crazy. The straight cut bangs girl appears right in front of him. Unbelievable, she has the power to bring someone into the room whenever she wants in 10 seconds. Lucky bastard, life is easy for her. She wants to know who he is and he explains that he was the one who granted citizenship, then pulls up the system's Coke gift, explaining that yes, they're at the top of that apartment and he saw her through the little rat. He apologizes for everything, knowing she must be surprised and offers a nice to meet you. His name is Jaeyun. She takes the items and thanks him, saying she was confused when that quest popped up. He tells her yes, he was the one who sent the quest to make her come there. She gets excited and admits she's shameless, already asking him to save other people. Please accept a whole group, she says. Her plan was to bring everyone, but it's tough given the distance. He asks how many people there are and she says 35. The protagonist is shocked. He didn't expect the girl to come with her whole family. He apologizes and says that would be difficult. She's confused and asks what he means. He explains that with his power, he can't bring that many people. She's pleading for help to save her mother, her little brother, everything, promising to do whatever he wants, but unfortunately, he'd have to grant citizenship. There isn't much else he can do. He's not going to spend that much money on those people. He thinks it over and remembers that he was able to grant citizenship even though she had only been present as a little rat. Maybe certain things could work that way. He's impressed that her trust level has already reached 37. Her desperation must have been so intense she had no choice but to trust him. He asks, "Are you willing to do absolutely anything?" She says yes, everything. I can't even list what this involves. This protagonist is way too kind and naive. He tells her she'll have to trust him 100%. If she says yes, he guarantees he'll save her family. Of course, she already trusts him. She clasps her hands together and vows to do whatever it takes. Her trust rises even more and hits 50, unlocking the loyalty system. The protagonist goes to register her as a vassal. Now he wants to see what happens. Flames appear around her and she unlocks the Night Tamer ability. The Tamer skill increases the stats of monsters she tames by a certain percentage based on their growth speed. Basically, tamed creatures can level up and grow stronger faster. Sneaky protagonist. He tells her to control a rat. Since she's now one of his vassals, he can always see them no matter where they are. He can observe the little rat she's watching. He sees members of her group looking at a rat and assumes it's probably Yejin's. Because he has that ability to use powers anywhere he can observe, he opens the system and makes food rain down in front of everyone. People are a little startled, but they already assume she sent it. With that, her trust rises even more. The protagonist gets excited. This combo of skills is working better than he imagined. Plus, Siu Yejin's ability combined with his absolute eye is a perfect match. Now he can basically browse through over 1,000 rats and see everything happening across the area. Finally, he has reconnaissance troops to watch the whole region. The protagonist then briefs her about the Nambomina area, which is near the subway and where he wants to take her family. He got lucky because she's close to that region, so with her rats there, it'll be perfect. Definitely better to send some rats to scout before Dongjin's mission. After all you have to do is send those stinky things. Suddenly, there's a little rat on her shoulder. Where did you come from, buddy? Is there a rat in that cap, like in the movie, controlling her by her hair? I might be going a bit far. She offers help, grinning and saying he can count on her, and her trust keeps climbing. Crazy, but won't she send the nearest rats? Come on, send the one's closest girl. Then the protagonist asks her to check the subway, region number 1. Immediately her face changes. If he's planning to go through there, she says he better change his mind now. He wants to know why, and she tells him there's a gigantic monster at Siumian Station. He asks if it's that strong. She just shakes her head yes. He tells her to send a rat so he can see the thing. The little creature runs through the subway, climbs on a bench, all terrified. There's an orc being devoured by a giant snake, like the first snake Sung Jinwoo killed. We're back to that. She's just staring at the rat, hiding, totally in shock. The rat gets discovered and goes in for a bite, but the rat is agile and dodges. Still, the poor rat might not get out alive. The protagonist is now certain that thing is definitely above level 40. Hiren says they should avoid using Sumion Station. How about heading to Apiaminbu Station or somewhere else? She's already seen how skilled his group is, so in other parts of the city they'd succeed. The protagonist thinks she's not wrong. It does sound like the best plan. He tells her she can go live in Unit 2701 from now on. Also, she just needs to clean up a bit. She thanks him and says she's heading there. He asks her to rest well. The protagonist thinks that if he were in her situation, he'd probably come up with a similar plan. That was before they met, though. Here comes the system notice. He can install solar panels now. The items start appearing on the building, and he sees the energy generated is decent, but nowhere near enough to support 800 people. To keep expanding, he needs more people working, not resting, and new things that people can use so he can earn money, and they can level up. But now it's time to get back to basics. Time to go hunting. Dongjun's group runs through the stations, desperate, until they turn and shout that the creatures are coming. Everybody changes stance, gets ready, and a horde of mutant bats comes at them from behind. A rain of arrows flies at the beasts. They're all pierced and fall dead. Gaeyoung asks if anyone's hurt. No, everyone's okay. Hiren asks if they're really going to be able to kill that snake Ji-Yim mentioned. Gaeyoung says it's worth a try. After all, he can summon them at any moment if they're in danger. That relaxes everyone. They say there's really no reason to worry. And of course, the exact moment someone says there's nothing to worry about is the perfect time to die. They press on through the station until everyone's expressions change. All that's left are the goblins that probably ran into the snake. Dongjun tells everyone to hold their positions and keep moving forward. Suddenly, he freezes and tells everyone to stop. Holy crap, they come face to face with the snake, and the thing is enormous. Right away, Doksu yells, asking how they're supposed to kill something like that. They tell everyone to duck. Something hits while someone covers the other line. Everyone's crouched down, the whole place trembling. The protagonist has a mission pop up, but nobody understands what just happened. Dongjun is confused. Why did he get this now? Then he notices the snake is oddly still. It just collapsed to the ground instead of attacking. Everyone's puzzled. The creature seems kind of bloodied on the inside. Yeonju and the protagonist lock eyes, and he doesn't know what's going on, but he grabs the spear on his back and hurls it toward the creature's head. The story explains that a giant snake is truly giant, big enough to swallow a horse, which is dangerous because while it's digesting something that size, it becomes exposed. On the other hand, because it's so huge, if a tiny creature, like a little rat, were to jump into its mouth, it wouldn't feel any difference. The snake swallows the rat without a second thought. What it didn't expect to happen next was this. With the rat inside, the protagonist commands the storage to open, and inside the snake, a bunch of poisonous gas and burning paper are released. That creates a chemical reaction in its belly that explodes it from the inside out. Poor rat, it's gone. But it was worth it. Thanks. Yejin is in pain but says she's okay, just shocked. The protagonist praises her, saying it was perfect, because he doesn't want to be the one who actually kills the creature. The vassals should do the killing so they can complete the missions and earn the money and experience themselves. Before Dongjun threw the spear, he'd given the mission to him and Yeonju to hunt the beast. He hits it right in the head. At the same moment, she partially transforms, charges in as a bear, and finishes it off with a powerful blow under the neck. The creature explodes and blood rains down. They defeat the Snake King, level 40, and gain a massive amount of experience. 1.8 billion won is deposited into the protagonist's wallet. Dongjun and Yeonju complete the mission, and everyone earns a huge boost in skill levels. The protagonist's house jumps straight to level 15. He gets 3 more points. The region expands massively, and of course he finds new people who can be registered as citizens, more than 200 in total. He orders citizenship granted and reaches 1,000 citizens. That unlocks the chance to obtain tiered abilities. The skills and the money gained from citizens are increased by another 100%. And to be clear, that increase isn't what the citizens themselves earn, it's what he takes from them. So even if he sets the share he takes from people to 0%, he still gets that extra 100% separately. So Jun walks up to Jaehyun and asks if he can now bring her family into his domain. Jaehyun thinks about it for a second and smiles and says, yeah, sure. As he said, Jun is practically jumping with joy, thanking him left and right. Then he asks her if she can still control the rats, and she's like, yeah, absolutely. Cut to her little rat running around somewhere new, and it bumps right into Dong's group. What these guys see is just brutal man. Hundreds of dead orcs everywhere, half of them eaten. Jun's rat is running around trying to get their attention, like it's trying to tell them to follow it. Dongjun's standing there confused, wondering if this is another one of Jaehyun's weird abilities. The group decides to follow the rat anyway. Back at base, Jaehyun turns off his pervy eyes and goes back to his room. It's time to level up. He's got 3 skill points sitting there, and with the territory getting bigger, he figures the smart move is to pump up his pervy eyes even more. But the second he upgrades it, this sharp pain just hits his head. Poor guy's probably regretting that decision right about now. Meanwhile, Dong's group runs into a horde of goblins, but Jaehyun can actually see their stats now. These aren't your typical dumb goblins either. They're level 8, they move in groups, they got spears and clubs, and they're quick. and can see perfectly fine in these dark tunnels. Jaehyun's watching this, thinking this vision ability would be perfect for scouting. He's already planning to hunt some goblins to try and get this power for himself. Plus, he's still trying to figure out how to make resurrection cheaper. His solution is to give everyone else more quests so they can level up on their own instead of him having to spend resources bringing them back every time they die. The next thing he does is upgrade his dignity maintenance skill because when you're running a growing community, you have to keep people happy and loyal. The moment he puts that skill point in, Jaehyun hears the gunshot and his face gets all serious. He realizes it's not coming from the building but from underground. Cut to the scene and what we see is absolutely wild goblins just casually holding guns wearing jackets. The goblins start shooting and Dongjin's yelling for everyone to get down. Bullets are flying everywhere and these guys know they're screwed in a straight gunfight. Yeonju's wondering how these goblins even got guns in the first place, but he doesn't have time to think about it. Jung-ho teleports right behind them and starts slicing through these goblins. One goblin tries to aim its pistol but gets an arrow straight through the hand. Gong and Deoksu jump in and Yanju goes full beast mode. With their combined effort, they take care of these goblins almost effortlessly. Then Jaehyun gets this system message saying guns are now available in his store with unlimited ammo. This is huge, like game-changing huge. But he immediately sees the problem. He can't just hand out guns to everyone. People would get all excited about monster hunting, but not everyone can be trusted with that kind of power. Up until now, he's been accepting pretty much anyone as a citizen, thinking he can handle troublemakers. But guns change everything. They give instant deadly power, and if the wrong person gets hold of one, things could go south real fast. Envy, jealousy, resentment, all those normal human emotions could turn deadly real quick. So Jaehyun decides only the most loyal and trustworthy people get guns, and he already knows exactly who should get the first one. Down in the tunnels, Dong's group finished off all the goblins when suddenly this mysterious box with a gun appeared right in front of Jono. The guy takes it like he's receiving a holy relic, silently thanking his god Jaehyun. They keep moving with the rat leading them until they reach a door. Dongjin opens it and finds a bunch of terrified people inside. Meanwhile, Jaehyun's taking a peaceful walk outside with Yejin when he gets an alert someone's trying to enter his domain. Then another notification pops up saying someone qualified for citizenship is nearby. He approves it without hesitation. Yeah, Jin's sister shows up and starts teasing her about smelling good, asking if she showered. Yeah, Jin's laughing, saying she's got hot water now. Jaehyun watches their happy reunion from a distance. He calls out to Yejin, saying apartment 2701 is hers, but it might get crowded if she wants to fit more than 30 people. Seeing her worry, he tells her he'll give her 3 more rooms because she deserves it. The girl's over the moon thanking him and promising to work her ass off. Jaehyun gets another notification that Yejin's loyalty went up along with a bunch of other people's trust levels. Then he remembers he leveled up earlier and forgot to check his rewards. He sees this new feature called Guardian Beast Management System and opens it. The cost to unlock it? 1 billion. He almost faints looking at that number. Then this gentle voice interrupts, asking if he has a moment to talk. It's Hyren, the youngest from Dong's group, and she looks nervous as hell. She says she has something important to discuss, so he invites her to sit down. Hyren apologizes, her voice shaking, and asks to leave the group. And Jaehyun's just standing there like, what the hell did you just say? Hyren starts telling him she feels completely useless, like no one would even notice if she just vanished. Jaehyun encourages her to keep talking and she just breaks down crying. She told him how she is scared of running into that snake. She is now terrified of orcs and even of goblins. She told him that she feels worthless and told him that she doesn't want to be a part of the hunting team anymore. She adds that she knows how selfish what she is saying is when Jaehyun is always saving her. And honestly, our boy isn't surprised. He had seen this coming. He is thinking how all the missions they are doing lately are dangerous and one could get killed if they are careless. Plus, Hyren doesn't have much to offer to the team. He knows that her poison mist ability is dangerous and could harm her own friends if used incorrectly. But instead of dismissing her, he tells her the timing's actually perfect because he needs someone he can trust to help him out. Davin's been taking care of all the injured people and he's exhausted and has been asking for help. Jaehyun tells Hyren he needs someone honest and compassionate, and she's exactly the right person. He reminds her that nobody's useless if they keep trying and that poison mist ability is unique. One day it's going to be really important. If she can't fight outside, she can help inside. Then Jaehyun does something that catches her completely off guard. He bows deeply to her. She's shocked and touched and starts smiling. The system shows her loyalty just shot up to 100. She wipes her tears and promises to do her best. Jaehyun smiles back, saying he's counting on her. After that, he opens up his system window and he's looking at this new feature that costs 1 billion. He is staring at it, thinking to himself if he should open it or not. In the end, he says screw it and clicks yes. As he did, a golden magic circle appeared with this golden crystal egg in the center that started cracking. The light is so bright he has to close his eyes. When it's gone, there's this small, adorable black bird. He uses his omniscient eyes and sees it's a 3-legged divine raven at level 1. It's got solar energy, but it's just a baby that needs protection and sunlight to grow. He wonders what to call it and in the end names it Blackie. The bird's flapping its wings all excited but then keeps going and Jaehyun realizes it's hungry. He gives it a bag of chips, and the little thing eats it happily before falling asleep like a lazy cat. Then he gets an alert Blackie leveled up and the solar generator efficiency went up by 100%. He remembers each generator makes about 80,000 to 100,000 per day. With Blackie's boost, that jumps to around 900,000 per day. So he decides to install solar generators in the 10 new buildings and starts a 24-hour countdown. Satisfied with how things are going, Jae-hyun heads to apartment 3001. As soon as Fatty opens the door, Jae-hyun greets him and says he wants to give him the responsibility of managing his money. That's quite a promotion from whatever Fatty was doing before. Jae-hyun tells Fatty his plan and the guy just freezes up completely. We get a flashback where Jae-hyun's thinking about his tax collection ability. If he gives someone else's money to hold, he gets 10% profit per month from it. He picked Fatty because the guy's got high trust and loyalty scores. Back to the present, and Fatty's in shock. This guy Choi Hyung-jun has 89 trust and 98 loyalty. Jae-hyun feels confident about his choice. Without saying anything else, Jae-hyun just transfers 1 billion to Fatty's wallet. The system confirms it went through. The quest costs 100 million plus fees, but it's worth it. Fatty's trust goes up and his loyalty hits 100. Since Fatty's already a vassal, Jae-hyun's maximum number of vassals increases too. Fatty asks if he should just keep the money without touching it. Jae-hyun sees his loyalty is perfect, so he tells him he can use a little if he needs to. Fatty's happy and thanks him. Then Daven shows up asking if she can pick anyone for her new team. Jae-hyun says yeah, she can include Yurin. Since Daven's going to be team leader, he decides she gets double pay. And man, as he said that, this girl is having a Nami-level reaction. She thanks him, grabs Yurin, and runs off to work all excited. Once everyone's gone, Jae-hyun takes a deep breath. Time for a serious conversation he's been dreading. He heads to apartment 2109 where Hedong's group is staying. He gathers the team and explains how, thanks to the snake that they killed at Somian Station, the surrounding area has been wiped clean of the monsters. No monsters on the streets or subway tracks near the station. He says that it's time for them to act, otherwise monsters will start swarming in. While he's talking to them, Jae-hyun remembers Yurin's outburst from before. That moment really affected him, reminding him these people are literally risking their lives for him. It's heavy stuff to carry on your shoulders. Thanks to Yejin's rats, they found out about the threat at Somian Station early. If they discovered it late, everyone would be dead. Getting ahead of it gives them an advantage. Jae-hyun understands the harsh reality this world is brutal, and anyone can die, but even then, he wants to protect the people he cares about. With all that weighing on him, he tells the group they're heading to Jagali Station tomorrow morning. Later in his room, the system pops up. Solar generator power increased by 100%. Plus, Blackie leveled up again and unlocked sun power and elemental magic. As Blackie's owner, Jae-hyun inherits this power too. So now he was looking at the system window dumbfounded, wondering if this magic is actually what he is thinking about. He raises his finger and a small flame appears. It feels strange but familiar. Later he goes to an isolated area and tries to imagine a huge flame. He stretches out his hand and focuses the energy but only gets a tiny flicker. He's disappointed at first but then gets curious. He remembers the special gas his ability creates. If you mix that gas with flame, the results could be explosive. Right now, it's just a baby flame, but one day it could become something terrifying. Feeling excited about the possibilities, he ends the test and goes home. While eating, he gets another notification. 2 solar generators have been built. Blackie leveled up 3 times, so the generators are now 8 times more powerful, turning the surplus into money. Just then, Ye-jun comes in and thanks him for letting her rest. Jae-hyun tells her she deserves it since her abilities are top-notch. He says he's going to need her help again. Dongjun's group is waiting at Seumyeon Station, and he wants her to guide them. Ye-jun agrees, saying her rats are already exploring the subway tracks. She tells him that they can get to Chiang Station without problems. Jae-hyun asks what happens after Chiang Station. Ye-jun gets serious and warns him the danger starts at Busan Station. She suggests he see it for himself. She sits down and activates her power while Jae-hyun connects his pervy eyes to the rat's vision. What he sees is absolutely horrible. The path ahead is a mess of rubble blocking everything, the tracks are flooded, and it's impossible to get through. Ye-jun explains one of her rats went further and found total destruction with no intact structures. Hearing this, Jae-hyun is wondering, what could have caused that? Are his parents still alive? Then, while sharing the vision, Jae-hyun notices something that makes his eyes widen. On the ground, there is this massive footprint. And just like that, all of this destruction started making sense to him. These buildings didn't collapse because of an earthquake. Nah, judging by that massive footprint, something massive walked through there. Then this loud, deafening sound echoes nearby and the walls start shaking. Each step feels more intense and Jae-hyun's wondering if the monster is getting closer. The tremors keep going and he's worried the whole building might collapse. Another quake hits and he asks Yenjin if she's okay. She says she's fine but wants to know what's causing all this. Suddenly, someone's calling urgently from the elevator. Jae-hyun and Yejin run out and see Fatty in full panic mode. Jae-hyun asks what's happening, but Fatty just gestures for them to follow him. The feeling of dread is getting worse as they all follow Fatty to his room. What they see through the window is a 60-meter titan casually demolishing buildings like they're made of paper. It's a giant cyclops with one red eye. Jae-hyun mutters that his bad feelings always come true. He's watching helplessly as this cyclops destroys everything in its path and keeps advancing. Fatty and everyone else are panicking. Even Jaehyun feels real fear creeping in. Watching that thing demolish everything, he thinks to himself, can I actually defeat something like that? Can I protect everyone? He's close to breaking down when Yeonju steps forward with this determined look. She told him to leave everything to her. Jaehyun sees the focus and determination in her eyes and believes in her courage. The system pops up with a new quest: defeat the Cyclops in 24 hours. The reward is 1 day of resurrection for Yeonju's son. The punishment is a day of pain. Jaehyun doesn't waste any time and starts giving out assignments. Team 1 is Yeonju, Donghyun, Dae Jaehyun, and Dongjun. Team 2 is Gong, Baehyun Ho, and Kim Ji Yan. Team 3 is just him and Yejin. He'll guard the area while the others go to their positions. He tells everyone he's counting on their strength and courage. After everyone follows orders, Hiren comes up and warns him that residents with military experience have gathered at the gate, while everyone else evacuated to the basement. Jaehyun thanks her and tells her to go to the basement too. But Hiren hesitates. She's terrified but wants to help anyway. Jaehyun can see both the fear and courage in her. She admits she's scared but wants to contribute. This makes Jaehyun smile and he tells her to go with Yejin to the gate. When he gets there, he finds the number of people pretty small. A lot of folks chose to hide instead of fight. Then the red jacket guy approaches, asking what they should do. Jaehyun asks about Becky Yub and the twin brothers. The red jacket guy looks away and stays silent. That silence says everything. Jaehyun realizes Beckham Yo and the twins fled to hide in the basement. A wave of disappointment hits him. Hundreds of people, including Bizong Yab, chose to ignore the danger and prioritize their own safety. For Jaehyun, these people chose comfort over courage. He sees them as cowards who abandoned their responsibility, leaving the burden to the brave ones. But despite his frustration, he'll never forget the 101 brave souls who answered the call. These people aren't stupid. They didn't show up because they didn't understand the danger. They showed up because they knew the truth. If nobody fights, everyone dies. They chose to protect themselves and their families. Jaehyun remembers something he heard once: courage isn't about not being afraid, but about acting despite the fear. That gets him hard. In this brutal world, the people who act despite their fear are the ones ensuring everyone's survival. And right there in front of him are 101 brave people. Silently, Jaehyun thanks each one of them. Determined to reward their bravery, he opens the system and suddenly guns and unlimited ammo start raining from the sky, shocking everyone. At first, the group hesitates, but when they actually hold the real guns and feel their weight, new hope is born. They might actually have a chance against this monster. The giant Cyclops lets out this terrifying roar that makes all the buildings shake. Nearby, Dongjun's hiding with a spear aiming at the Cyclops' leg. He throws it with everything he's got, and the weapon buries itself deep in the monster's leg. The Cyclops roars in pain. Now it's furious and looking around for whoever threw that spear. It spots Dongjun, who just freezes up completely. The monster starts advancing, dragging its wounded leg behind it. That's when Yeonju and her beast form attacks from behind. She digs her claws into the Cyclops' already wounded leg, doing even more damage. The Cyclops roars and falls to its knees. But her attack wasn't enough to seriously hurt the Cyclops. It gets back up, takes this massive stomp, and hurls her away like she weighs nothing. She gets a distant building hard. Looks like it's over. The Cyclops bends down, ready to finish her off. But then this loud voice echoes through a megaphone. It's Deoksu calling the Cyclops an idiot and saying its balls are in its eye. The Cyclops actually understands the taunt and looks at Dongjun. Its huge eye sees the spear still stuck in its leg and realizes Dongjun was the one who threw it. Now it's really pissed and starts running towards Deoksu, all ready to crush him beneath its feet. Seeing that damn thing running towards him, our boy is terrified. He knows this thing is coming to kill him, so he turns and runs like his life depends on it. From far away, Jaehyun was watching it all through his pervy eyes. With his ability, he turned and told the others that the plan worked and the Cyclops was heading for the trap. He signals everyone to get ready. Dongjun runs to the barrier with the Cyclops pursuing him with these slow but heavy steps. Deoksu collapses exhausted inside the barrier and the Cyclops reaches the limit. Jaehyun gives the signal and Blackie flies toward the Cyclops, pecking and attacking its eye. The Cyclops closes its eye in annoyance and pain. Taking advantage of the distraction, Gong shoots an arrow. The Cyclops tries to defend, but the arrow goes through its hand and hits the closed eye. In the chaos, Jungho teleports above the monster and throws several rats into the Cyclops' open mouth. The plan's working perfectly. As the next phase begins, Jaehyun summons explosive gas inside the Cyclops' body. He raises his hands and activates Sunfire magic. A colossal explosion happens inside the Cyclops and black smoke covers the sky. When the smoke clears, the Cyclops appears severely burned and lifeless, leaning against the barrier. Everyone's shocked. They thought they were going to die, but it seems that one-eyed bastard was the one to kick the bucket first. But Jaehyun knows something's wrong. The Cyclops isn't dead because the system hasn't confirmed it. He orders everyone to stay alert. Then Fatty calls Jaehyun with a trembling voice, asking him to turn around. Jaehyun turns carefully and, to his shock and horror, sees the Cyclops' red eye staring right at him. That murderous gaze looks like it wants to devour him right there. Jaehyun panics, unable to believe the monster survived. But before he can process what's happening, the Cyclops raises its hands and slams them into the barrier. The barrier's holding up against this massive cyclops, but our boy is sweating bullets thinking, this thing's gonna crack any second now. Seeing that the cyclops can't enter, Fatty orders the citizens to open fire, and with that, they hit this bastard with some American justice. But our boy is thinking that while they manage to stop this thing in time, there is no guarantee how much longer we are going to last. He's got his invisible hand trick going to protect everyone but man. Even though the barrier is tough, the shockwaves are absolutely wrecking everything around them. Buildings are crumbling left and right like they're made of cardboard. Seeing that when the giant was going all out the barrier held, the citizens decided to deliver some more American justice to the bastard, and Jian is standing there thinking it's not like the attacks aren't doing anything. If we keep this up, we might be able to take that beast down, but deep down he knows too that it'll take forever and he needs someone who can deal massive damage. Just then a spear flies in, hitting that bastard in the chest. Our boy turns and sees that Yanju and the crew join the party too. He summons a crazy amount of spears and the gang starts hitting the cyclops relentlessly. One spear comes flying in after the other. Here's the thing, folks, they're basically throwing pebbles at Godzilla. Every hit just makes this monster even more pissed off. Right when things are looking hopeless and everyone's probably thinking, well, this is how we die, the system pops up with a notification. The solar generators hit 100%, and with that it's now possible for Blackie to borrow the power of the sun for a brief moment of time. And Blackie is all ready to throw hands with this bastard. So he's like, screw it, what else are we going to do? And gives Blackie the green light. Suddenly, there's this bright yellow ball forming in the sky that looks like someone shrunk the sun and stuck it up there. Jaehyun takes one look at his energy bill and nearly has a heart attack. 300 million units just got eaten up for one attack. Then boom, explosion time. Blackie emerges from Jaehyun's room looking like she just got the ultimate makeover. 3 eyes, massive feathers, basically turned into this majestic black phoenix that would make Game of Thrones dragons jealous. She opens that beak, charges up all that solar energy like she's about to fire a Kamehameha wave, and blasts the cyclops right in the chest. The attack punches a hole straight through the monster, but that damn thing is still standing there like, is that all you got? That's when Yeonju decides it's her time to shine. She transforms into her bear form, jumps through the air, and delivers the final blow that finally puts down this level 51 beast. The moment that Cyclops hits the dirt, Jaehyun's getting showered with X. His head starts killing him as his domain expands to cover more buildings. Plus, he gets another 10 billion just for construction work. Just then, Blackie flies over, acting all proud, rubbing her beak on his nose like, yeah, that's right, I'm the real MVP here. Praise me, you human bastard. But now, our boy is still mad about the 300 million that Blackie used, and Blackie's reaction to that is just adorable. But honestly, he's not complaining. 31 billion profit, and everyone's still breathing. That's what we call a total victory. Watching Blackie one-shot a giant cyclops was probably the most insane thing he's ever witnessed. He's petting his evolved phoenix, thinking about how brave she is and if he should summon all 10 beasts. He opens up the system window and sees that the price has gone up. Now it costs 10 billion to summon beast. Before he could think about what the hell happened, he heard a loud sound. It's Yeonju making some kind of sound, and that's when Jaehyun notices something weird. The usual system notification sound changed into something completely different. And by the look on Yeonju's face, this is exactly what she's been waiting to hear for ages. So we get a flashback before all that Cyclops madness went down. There's this guy chilling in some abandoned building using his water powers to fill up bottles for everyone. The people around him are acting like he's their personal savior just for giving them clean water. Our water wizard is standing there having an existential crisis because they're completely out of food. He's got a whole line of thirsty folks waiting for their daily H2O ration. He's got the water side covered, as he can summon it as much as he likes, but their food is running out, and with these monsters running around, it gets harder and harder to obtain food each time. The dude's getting that sinking feeling that they're going to have to abandon their little safe haven soon. And the whole building starts shaking, and everyone's first thought is earthquake time. But nope, some guy comes running screaming about a monster outside. The water guy freezes up. He ran to the rooftop, and there's that massive cyclops just standing there. The white-haired guy next to him is having a panic attack, asking what they should do, while Junhyuk is already in tactical mode, telling everyone to hide in the underground basement. He tells the white-haired guy that apart from that, they can't do anything against that thing. While they continue talking among themselves, Blackie had already taken care of the cyclops. They turn and see that the thing they were so scared of earlier was reduced to ashes in an instant. Seeing that the water guy is thinking to himself that it was an awakened doing, and if he wants to stay alive, he must stick close to that awakened. The next thing we know, he has packed bags and is heading towards our boy's building. They reach the apartment complex and immediately notice these buildings are standing tall while everything else is destroyed. Hyun's walking ahead going, how are these still standing? When he face plants into an invisible wall, the system pops up with entry prohibited, but then asks if they want to become citizens. They accept and get their first mission, go visit Jaehyun on the 30th floor. They head to the 30th floor and our boy is addressing them by names. Haeyuk takes one look at this guy and his instincts are screaming this is the Cyclops Slayer. So he grabs Jaehyun's hand and basically goes, please adopt us, we'll be good. Cut to the heartwarming stuff. Yeonju is serving up a meal to her little boy, Seiwoo, looking genuinely happy for probably the first time in forever. The kid's chowing down and asks whose birthday it is since they're eating seaweed soup. Just then, Jaehyun walks in and the little guy calls him Wizard Uncle. Yeonju asks about the new resident and Jaehyun mentions the new residents are settled but apologizes because they can't leave the building. Yeonju's just saying, "Are you kidding? I get to be here with my son, this is perfect." The system confirms her loyalty jumped up and she's officially registered as a vassal, but honestly, you could tell just by looking at her face how happy this mama bear is now that she finally has her cubs safe and sound. While they're watching TV together, being a normal family, Jaehyun's thinking about his own family, wondering how they're doing in all this chaos. Blackie shows up to play with Yeonju and her son, and watching them all together, Jaehyun is thinking about his family. He's wondering how his mom is doing, but then he consoles himself, saying that he can't panic, as one of Yeonju's rats is currently heading towards where his family lives. With that, you will be able to deliver food and necessary supplies to them, so today's all about letting Yeonju enjoy her dream coming true. Jaehyun tells Yeonju to sleep in the master bedroom, but Yeonju says that he had already done enough for them, and they are comfortable sleeping outside. But our boy isn't going to let a mother and a sweet, cute child sleep outside, so he insists. Seeing that Yeonju was going to reject again, he orders her to take the bed. Yeonju gives her son's hair a loving ruffle, and they're both thanking this dude for being so thoughtful. The kid waves at Jun, calling him Uncle Wizard before heading in, and Jun's just standing there with a satisfied smile, thinking life's pretty good right now. The scene shifts, and Yeonju is singing these lullabies to Sue, and the sound is drifting through the apartment. Jaehyun's lying there on that couch listening to her lullaby, and these old memories of his mom start bubbling up. The next day is one of those perfect, slow days that feels like time doesn't exist. They're eating Yeonju's cooking and watching Sue's favorite cartoons, and the kids are chasing Blackie around the house, who just wants to sunbathe in peace. Then they're all napping together and playing with the toys Jaehyun bought. Then comes the gut punch scene. Yeonju's on her knees, saying goodbye, holding her son, pouring every ounce of love into that hug. The kid, being too young to understand going down, asks if she's crying. She's trying to play it cool, whispering she's not, but tears are streaming down her face. This little guy puts his tiny hand on her cheek, feeling the tears, and starts wiping them away, telling her not to cry. Yeonju breaks down because she's terrified of a world without him. Then this kid said his mom and promises he's right there with her. Those words hit Yeonju hard and she's sobbing even harder. The boy keeps trying to comfort her as he slowly backs away, looking her dead in the eyes and promising he'll always be by her side. She's calling his name with a voice that's completely shattered, but he keeps walking toward the sunset. She's desperately saying she still has so much to do for him when he stops, turns around with this gentle smile, and tells her that he loves her as his body starts disappearing into the light. Those words almost broke her, but she manages to smile through the tears and tells him that she loves him. Siwoo gives her one last peaceful smile, and with that he disappears. Jaehyun's watching all this go down. He's having philosophical thoughts about hope being a delicate flower that blooms in despair. He reaches out his hand, telling Yeonju not to lose herself in grief and promising this isn't the end. She looks up at him with this trembling voice, asking if it's really not over. Jaehyun says that if there's even the tiniest chance, he'll bring her son back over and over. Those words spark new hope in her, and then the system notification pops up saying Yeonju's trust level hit 100% and she gained some ancient vitality. Then we cut to the red-haired bastard who's absolutely losing his mind, screaming with rage. The twins are telling him all his carefully saved gear, standard spear, orc spear, all his money just vanished into thin air. This dude's confused as hell, asking about his brother's stuff. Brother explains that when he woke up, everything was gone without warning. Then the other twin chimes in too, saying that lots of other people lost their items too, and all of them have one thing in common, and that is that they chose to run away during the summoning. The elder one sighs and says that he should have gone to fight the monster. Hearing this, the red-haired guy immediately grabs him by the collar, saying, "Are you trying to blame me for this mess?" He screams, saying that he hadn't forced them, saying that they were the ones that didn't want to follow Jaehyun's orders. The elder one apologizes, so Red Hair finally lets go of his shirt, and then he starts wondering if they had been kicked out. He remembers how it had already happened once when some creep tried to mess with an underage girl. That guy got expelled and was found dead on the streets the very next day. Now, this bastard realized that he messed up because after the giant subjugation, the rest of the survivors had started gathering at their apartment complex, and among them there are probably plenty of people who'd love to see him get kicked out. He's consumed with hatred, picturing Baek Sungmin and imagining how happy that guy must have been getting a weapon. Dude scratching his head, completely lost about how everything went to hell. Meanwhile, Jaehyun's watching everything go down, thinking this is just the beginning of the punishment. Then his system window appears behind Red Hair with a new mission that catches him completely off guard. Hunt 20 goblins in 24 hours or suffer 1 minute of extreme pain. Now about Yeonju's new ability, this ancient vitality thing. It's basically this super rare power that makes you heal crazy fast, and the worse your injuries are, the faster it works. And thanks to hitting 100 trust points with Yeonju, Jaehyun's got it too now, and he's trying to wrap his head around what just happened. But then he realizes this power won't be super useful right now since he's not the one doing the fighting. Even if he leaves the building, chances of getting seriously hurt are pretty much zero. Still, the fact that such a powerful skill comes from reaching 100 trust points is definitely worth remembering. His thoughts drift to Bongho, who's also getting close to that 100-point mark. If Bongho hits 100 trust and Jaehyun gets his ability instant teleportation to anywhere he can see, then things get really interesting. He starts imagining using this teleportation with his absolute one-eye skill, plus maybe an outpost base. The system shows him info about this outpost. It's basically a safe zone you can set up outside house. As long as someone with knight rank or higher is inside, it gives you the city's protection temporarily. But if enemies stay there more than a day, the whole thing gets destroyed. Jaehyun figures that as long as his mental strength can handle it, he'd be able to travel to the advanced base. So he makes a decision from now on. His main focus is strengthening his mental fortitude. All his missions are going to be about improving that one stat. Just then, someone calls his name. It's Yeonju saying she's feeling more stable now and asking for permission to leave. She wants to personally handle bringing Jun's family back. Jaehyun realizes the mission should have started yesterday, but the delay was his fault. Yeonju thanks him for his time and promises to find a way to repay his kindness. Jun thinks she read his mind or something. He jokes about whether he really seems like the impatient type, saying her words made him a little embarrassed. Yeonju responds gently, saying he doesn't seem impatient at all, and if she were in his position, she probably would have acted the same way. She smiles softly and admits that everyone values their own family most, and she understands how precious that one day he gave her and her son was. Jan smiles back and asks her to go to Unit 2901, where people are already waiting. They are not going directly to Siomi Station because the Cyclops attack destroyed a huge part of the tracks. The station itself is basically unusable now. So Jun decided they need new routes, and he's had Jun sending her rats to look for access points for the past 24 hours. Jaehyun activates his ultimate eyes to get full control of the situation. But then something unexpected catches his attention. The system shows a message about a level 7 tamed giant rat. He wonders if the rat evolved or something. He wonders if this is because Yejin gained a new ability when he registered her as his vassal. But then he notices something following the rat. It's a swarm of zombies chasing the rat. This scene even takes our boy by surprise. Meanwhile, the rat is doing all he can. He picks up the pace and dashes forward at high speed, trying to escape the zombies chasing him. But then, in a completely unexpected move, the rat suddenly stops. It turns to face the enemies and growls aggressively at them. The zombies surround the rat from every angle, blocking any escape route. But even faced with all this danger, the rat stands its ground, refusing to back down even a step. Jaehyun's watching from a distance, thinking the rat's going to die for no reason. He considers causing a gas explosion to take the zombies down with it. But then he sees that the little guy was in no mood to give up. It charges forward with this crazy speed, dodging one zombie after the other, and within a moment the rat was out of danger, and Jaehyun is giving the guy a thumbs up, thinking how this dude is awesome. The rat then starts heading towards the exit, and there were only a few steps left. Now finally the little dude was out, and our boy is sighing in relief. But he didn't know that there was a freaking shark waiting outside for him. And Jaehyun is like, what the hell? Since when did snakes start eating rats? But who cares about the logic, because the shark is already charging our little friend, and sadly it wasn't able to dodge it in time. Jaehyun feels this intense pain in his head as a result and is now cursing the shark. He is thinking, was that really a land shark? But on the plus side, he had confirmed the location. That damn thing was lurking somewhere around the Nampo station, and the bad news is that it's only a few kilometers from his parents' house. He is thinking that if there is one monster, then there will surely be more, and if he wants to save his parents, he'll have to hurry. The scene shifts to Davin, who's crouched down, sorting through boxes just then. Someone calls out to her. She turns and finds that it's Jaehyun arriving and thanking her for all her hard work. Davin smiles and says she didn't think it was hard work, especially since she's getting paid for it. She asks what the new problem is this time. Jaehyun looks a little uncomfortable, looking away as he tries to figure out the best way to explain the situation. Sensing his hesitation, Davin becomes concerned. This girl is getting all sorts of thoughts in her head. She wonders what our boy is about and asks. Jaehyun then awkwardly asks her if he can borrow Heron for a couple of minutes, and Davin is standing there dumbfounded. The fact that she'll have to handle everything alone absolutely terrifies her. She asks Hyun if he is kidding. Our boy just smiles and tells her that she'll have to handle things alone for a while. She then asks him if he is at least going to pay her overtime for it, and our boy smiles and tells her that she sure is getting paid for it, and it's double her usual pay. Davin once again gives the Nami-level reaction as she hears double pay. So somewhere else, this thick green mist released by the system completely covers Yeren's body. Then we cut to everyone sitting around a table with all eyes on Jaehyun as he's about to start the mission briefing. Jaehyun explains that thanks to that cyclops, getting through Kamayan Station has become way more difficult. He says it would be a shame to completely abandon the subway line. Yajin jumps in to explain that the section between Kamayan Station and Bayamagal through Doryang Station is still perfectly fine. No monsters along that route, so they can cross without much worry. She puts a piece of paper on the table showing their first main goal: secure the route to Bayamagal Station. The guy with 4 eyes is thinking the best way through would be to fly over it, when suddenly Duxu interrupts just to compliment Yajin on her amazing map drawing skills. Jae-hyun cuts through that and brings everyone back on track. He restates Yajun's explanation and points to a specific area on the map, warning they need to be extremely careful before reaching their destination. About 500 orcs are currently active near a large supermarket complex. Dongjin immediately asks if they'll have to fight the orcs directly. Yajun responds clearly that fighting orcs isn't part of the plan. They just need to get to Biomegal Station and use the underground subway line. She's found a route with no orcs at all, just a few lower-level monsters that need clearing. Jae-hyun remembers how much he invested before this mission to make sure almost everyone in the group reached at least level 30. Only Fatty and Heron aren't quite there yet, but he figures that should be more than enough against goblins. He continues explaining they should get to Koreang Station without significant problems. But then he points out the real obstacle is Busan Station. This area is filled with a huge swarm of zombies, and unless someone in the group has an ability to wipe out monsters in extremely tight spaces, using that route would be seriously dangerous. Everyone's stunned by this news, especially Heron. She finds her courage. With trembling hands, she says she thinks her ability might be able to help in this situation. Then we cut to Heron making her preparation for the fight. She has 100 kilograms of poison mist ready in her storage for the fight. After packing her stuff, she turns back to where Jae-hyun and Yajun are waiting for her. Jae-hyun asks her how she is doing, wanting to know if she is ready for the fight. She says even though she felt completely drained at the beginning, she's doing all right now. She says that she suddenly felt this surge of strength. And folks, it's all thanks to our boy who knew that Heron was looking tired, so he secretly leveled her up. It wasn't cheap, but the investment is worth it. But even after all this, she is still unsure. Heron asks Jae-hyun if he's really sure it's okay for her not to go in person. He tells her that it would be okay for her to stay here and produce poison mist, which would be more than enough. The preparations complete, Jae-hyun activates his ultimate eyes, ready to commit some zombie genocide. The scene cuts to a bunch of ugly-ass zombies doing typical zombie stuff when something grabs their attention. They all turn together and spot Yajun's rat charging at them full speed. Jae-hyun follows their plan and opens his inventory to release thick green poison mist that spreads over the zombie crowd. The rat dashes forward, weaving through the bodies, while Heron's poison targets muscles and causes paralysis. The poison makes living things suffocate, but zombies are already dead, so they don't need to breathe anyway. Jae-hyun saw this coming and prepared a backup plan, telling Yejin to take over when needed. And now the time had come. He gives her the go-ahead, and we cut to the subway, where a horde of rats is now charging towards the zombies. So while these undead bastards were lying there paralyzed, rats turned them into the experience. The system window announces the kill, telling our boy that a level 11 zombie had been successfully hunted. Along with the experience gained, a deposit of 120,851 was transferred directly to the digital wallet. Before he could even celebrate, Yejin told him that there is something wrong with the rats. The system pops up with this message: "Congratulations, your rat just hit level 9. And Jaehyun's standing there like, oh crap, this is bad, because apparently smart rats plus zombie blood equals potential disaster. This guy's brain immediately goes to worst case scenario mode. What if the rat gets infected? What if Yajun got scratched during all this chaos? So he's like, yo, can you still control these things? And she's all, yeah, but they're getting a bit aggressive. Javen breathes a sigh of relief, thinking maybe, just maybe, they can make it to Jagalki Station, and he can finally see his family again. Just then a system window pops up that someone's trying to break into their shelter. Our boy opens up the system and sees that 157 people just show up asking for citizenship. With about 2 seconds to think, he says screw it and accepts. Next thing he knows, he unlocks some shiny new economic activity subsidy power. Looking at the system window, he smiles and says that it could turn out to be something good. The system flashed with another update, announcing that citizens' salaries would now be handled automatically. The amount each person earned would depend entirely on their official title or position in the community. These wages would come from a separate fund, not from Jaehyun's personal wallet, and would be based purely on each citizen's assigned role. Reading through the details, Jaehyun realized this was the perfect opportunity he'd been waiting for. He could finally give official titles to Dabin and her entire team managing the public facilities. The math worked out nicely too. A weekly salary of 700,000 won matched perfectly with a daily wage of 100,000, keeping the accounting straightforward. He tapped the system screen, muttering that manual payments were now a thing of the past. Before this update, paying people directly meant losing out on tax reductions, but that problem was solved. At this rate, they'd need to expand the public facilities department fast. The money flowing through the Economic Activity Support Fund was basically free resources from the system. And it wasn't pocket change either. Even the 100,000 won paid to each employee added up quickly. Running the numbers in his head, 300 workers on payroll meant 30 million won daily. If they filled every position from basic workers to general managers, they could easily hit 50 million won per day. Jaehyun could see the bigger picture forming. As this money circulated through the community, his tax collection ability would generate more income. Better yet, citizens would spend most of their earnings in his store, effectively cycling the money right back to him. Giving titles to as many people as possible seemed like the smartest long-term strategy. The question was which positions to create beyond facility management. After thinking it through, maintenance, cleaning, and security roles made the most sense as starting points. Without hesitation, he promoted Dabin to general manager. He remembered she already brought Fatty and Heron onto the team, though he couldn't quite recall who else was involved. Just then, the system caught his attention again. A message appeared showing that Dabin had reached 100 loyalty points, officially registering her as a vassal. That's when it clicked for Jay, and when citizens hit 100 loyalty, they automatically became vassals. This made him wonder if all vassals gained new skills at that exact moment. Curious to see what ability Dabin might have unlocked, Jayan was about to check the system when something else grabbed his attention. Heron was fast asleep on the sofa, completely relaxed and even drooling a little. Yejin looked at her and asked if they should wake her up. Jayan shook his head, saying they should let her rest. She'd done her job and was clearly exhausted. Despite trying to act tough, she probably pushed herself to the breaking point and deserved a break more than anyone. Using his invisible hand ability, Jaehyun carefully lifted Heron and carried her to a bed in one of the rooms where she could sleep more comfortably. Jaehyun turned to Yejin and asked how she was holding up. She replied calmly that everything was fine, especially now that they'd reached the tracks near the station. Jaehyun nodded and told her to keep up the good work. She smiled and told him to leave it to her, but then her face changed and something made her hesitate. Jaehyun noticed immediately and asked if something was wrong. She stammered a little, saying all of a sudden the connection wasn't working anymore. Jaehyun asked what she meant and she told him to wait a second. She closed her eyes trying to reconnect with the link, but apparently it was no use. She explained it was probably the distance. It seemed to be just too far this time. Jaehyun asked if the link had been working properly before. She said it was possible to go a little beyond the maximum range if the link was already set up beforehand, but now the link's reach was only as far as the central station. She turned to him, asking what they were supposed to do now. Jaehyun started cursing his luck, thinking how something always seemed to go wrong at a critical moment, and just beyond the station was the house where his family was supposed to be. He'd been counting on using one of Yejin's rats to check the house before making a move. Clenching his fist tightly, he asks Yejin to try once more. She agreed, saying she'd give it her best shot. Meanwhile, the system showed current locations of everyone in the mission. Yajin's rats were moving ahead to scout while Dong's group stayed further back, following at a safer distance. The scene shifted to the station where Dong's group had just arrived. Everyone stood frozen, completely overwhelmed by what they saw. The whole area was total devastation. All the surrounding buildings had been turned to rubble, and these giant footprints were everywhere. Four Eyes stared at the destruction in disbelief. Gaeong told him to start scouting the area immediately. Following her command, Jaehyun ordered Blackie to start flying above the area. After watching through the Raven's eyes, he reported there didn't seem to be any monsters nearby. Duxu said the station itself seemed free of goblins too, and because of the massive rock slide, they should be able to move through without much trouble. The healer mentioned night was falling fast and they should find somewhere safe until morning. Gaeong quickly reassured her, explaining that based on how goblins usually act, nighttime was actually safest since goblins tend to hide once it gets dark. Dongjin looked deep in thought and then said they should keep moving. If anything dangerous happened, there was a good chance Javen would summon them back right away. Suddenly, one of Yajin's small rats appeared, making gestures like it was trying to show them something important. It started following the rat. Looking around, Four Eyes said that the whole station has now been turned into a lake, wondering if this is that giant's doing. Gaeong replied it was very likely since the ground had shifted when buildings fell. They continued walking when Four Eyes saw something coming out of the water. At first he thought that it was a human. One of the girls quickly recognized that it was not a human but a damn siren. He acted quickly and told the group to cover their eyes. So everyone's scrambling to cover their ears because this siren is absolutely destroying their eardrums with the most bone-rattling scream you've ever heard. Our boy Duxu's already looking like he's about to pass out, arms shaking as he's trying to keep his hands pressed against his head. Meanwhile, Yanju's standing there completely lost, asking what the hell is even happening right now. But then things get really weird. Duxu realizes with pure horror that his body's moving on its own like he's some kind of puppet. Both he and Yanju start getting dragged toward the lake against their will. When Yanju gets that freezing water, reality smacks her hard. She knows they're in deep trouble. That's when these nasty fangs shoot out of the water straight at her feet. The girl's survival instincts kick in and she tries to swim up, but these underwater bastards grab her legs and yank her right back down. Back on the surface, Dongjin and the crew are still getting their brains scrambled by that siren's scream. Everyone looks like they're about to collapse when the healer closes her eyes and pulls off this clutch move. She wraps the whole group in this glowing magical armor that actually lets them think straight again. Dongjin's like, "What did you do? I can actually function now," and Four Eyes asks what kind of power the healer even has. But she's begging them to hurry up and save Duxu and Yanju before it's game over. Then these blue creatures start crawling out of the lake and everyone's thinking the same thing. What are those bastards? Before anyone can come up with an answer, these things launch themselves through the air with zero chill. Dongjin raises his steel rod, ready to throw down, and manages to knock one of them back. An arrow finishes the job, but that's just one down with the whole army still coming. Gaeong's getting frustrated because these things just keep spawning. But then the Yeonju emerges from the depths carrying Duxu. The dude's coughing up lake water and mumbling about how he thought he was dead for sure. Everyone's relieved for exactly 2 seconds before the monsters decide to crash the reunion party. Deoksu lights up his magical armor and yells something about holding the line. Yeonju plants her feet and absolutely demolishes one of these creatures with a punch that sends it flying into a wooden pillar. That's when things get really messed up. The pillar breaks, and this goblin body that was tied to it comes crashing down. Everyone jumps back just in time, and that's when Four Eyes tells them to look up. What they see is absolutely horrifying. Goblins hung up in the shape of a massive cross, just dangling there like some twisted decoration. Dongjin realizes they were so busy fighting the water monsters that they completely missed these monsters hanging over their heads. He comes to this chilling conclusion. These bastards don't discriminate. They'll string up anyone, victim or monster. Then the female Gaeong just loses it. Her bow slips from her hands, she's shaking uncontrollably and she can't even speak. She's staring at one of those bodies, thinking, could that really be my father? And because the universe has perfect timing, one of the creatures chooses that exact moment to charge straight at the completely defenseless Gaeong. Dongjin sees what's about to happen and screams her name, but she's frozen solid, totally unaware that death is sprinting toward her. Right when things are looking hopeless, a gunshot rings out and saves the day. Bungo comes in clutch, nailing that creature midair. He immediately checks on Gaeong, asking if she's okay, and Dongjin praises his quick reflexes. But then they notice Gaeong is completely broken, just kneeling there with this 1,000-yard stare. That's when Four Eyes rushes over with some crucial intel. Turns out he's been using Blackie to get a bird's-eye view of the situation, and he figured out something huge. That ear-splitting siren scream isn't just torturing them. It's actually commanding the fish-faced bastards. Every time she opens her mouth, these creatures move. Four Eyes explains that if they can shut her up, the whole army will probably just scatter without their leader. Dongjin thinks it's worth a shot, but he's worried they won't get the chance with all these monsters swarming them. Deoksu steps up and says he's got this. Dude's got a plan and just needs everyone to open a path for him. The healer volunteers to stay back and protect the group while everyone else charges forward like absolute maniacs. They're cutting through creatures left and right, clearing the way for their boy. Dongjin yells for Deoksu to make his move, and our guy grips his halberd, takes aim, and hurls it straight at the siren with everything he's got. The weapon's flying through the air at crazy speed, but this siren's got reflexes. She dodges it like it's nothing. Everyone freezes in horror as they watch their one-shot miss completely. The siren starts cackling like a maniac, and all her ugly minions are laughing too, making fun of Deoksu's epic fail. But here's the thing. Our boy Deoksu is just standing there with this calm smile, completely unfazed. He looks at Dongjin and asks if he's forgotten something important. Dongjin's confused as hell until it hits him. Deoksu drops this perfect one-liner. What's the best way to deal with a fish? Then he activates his recall command. The halberd comes flying back and slices clean through the siren's back on its return trip. Talk about a 200 IQ play. The system pops up with that sweet notification. Level 33 siren eliminated. Experience gained. The weapon returns to Deoksu's hand like nothing happened, and all the fish creatures immediately get lost without their boss, diving back into the lake. Everyone's relieved that they got one less nightmare to deal with, but then Gaeong drops to her knees and with her voice trembling, she reveals that one of the bodies hanging on those crosses is her father. Dongjin goes speechless. He can't accept that his father-in-law is among those tortured victims. Gaeong completely breaks down, sobbing uncontrollably, while Dongjin falls to his knees in panic and disbelief. The whole group just stands there feeling the weight of this tragedy. Right in front of them, hanging from that cross in the most heartbreaking state, is her father's body. Right then, Jaewon was trying to issue a resurrection quest with Gaeong as the target. The reward? Bringing her father back to life. But the system won't let him because the resurrection is only possible if the target dies within his territory. So now our boy is staring at this screen in complete desperation, frantically tapping through the system window trying to make it happen. Yejin's watching him lose his mind and she's absolutely stunned by how he's acting. But then our boy suddenly stops and starts thinking with his brain instead of his heart. He realizes that if the group were in real danger, the system would have summoned him immediately. So maybe things aren't as bad as they seem. But then he's like, wait, getting dried underwater by armed fish people definitely counts as serious danger, right? Dude's having this whole internal debate while his family's probably fighting for their lives. JM's torn between wanting to see his own family and knowing everyone else has people they care about too. But in the end, his selfish side wins. He convinces himself that saving his family comes first, above everyone else. With shaking hands, he picks an option from the system. And what does he give them? A mission to build a grave. 1 hour time limit. Tiny bit of experience, no punishment. Gaeong reads this and just breaks down even more, realizing there's no real hope for her father. Meanwhile, Jaehyun's watching all this through his ultimate eye ability, feeling like absolute garbage about his decision. The group builds the grave, and they're all standing there in this heavy, depressing silence. Dongjin asks Gaeong if she's really okay with this, and she says her father would have wanted it this way. Turns out the old man was obsessed with his job and always said he wanted to be buried near railway tracks. She thought it was ridiculous as a kid, but now she's made his weird wish come true. She places this metal plate with his name on it, marking his final resting place. Jaehyun's watching from afar, getting hit with this terrifying thought that maybe one day this same pain will be his own. That fear makes him decide he needs to protect them no matter what, but to do that, he's going to need stronger people by his side. The scene switches to our own water magician who is busy turning goblins into experience points. The system pops up saying Jun-hook's loyalty hit 30 and he's now qualified to be a vassal. Our boy doesn't waste a single second and registers him immediately. A woman behind him points out that his body's glowing and Jun-hook looks down at his hands in amazement. The system announces he hit level 40 and got the titles of 12th Bell Knight and Mage with 59 trust and 51 loyalty points. His awakened skills, water manipulation, then another mission appears and his mage abilities get a 100% boost. He gets 2 new skills, Water Bomb, a rank, which creates high-temperature compressed water explosions, and Water Control, S rank, which lets him freely manipulate water with his mind. The goal? Use these skills in 10 minutes or face mental exhaustion. Jun-hook's standing there stunned, but then he smiles because he realizes there are plenty of enemies nearby to test his powers on. Water starts forming around him, and he creates this massive sphere that leaves the goblins completely shocked. Water Bomb, he shouts, hurling it forward. The explosion creates a crater and turns every goblin into paste. Then he activates Water Control, lifting droplets into the air like some kind of water-bending master. 2 guys watching from nearby are like, is that really Jun-hook doing all that? One confirms it while Jun-hook lets the water drops fall like gentle rain, still under his complete control. Then the dude falls to his knees and starts thanking our boy for these power boosts. The observers are wondering if he's lost his mind, but the system confirms the mission's complete. Trust and loyalty both increased, and apparently 70,251 points were used. Jae-yoon's completely shocked. He never expected an S-rank skill to awaken like this. Jun-hook just became the second person with S-rank abilities after Yeonju. Originally, the guy only had B-rank water creation, but now he's basically Aquaman. While Jae-yoon's processing this unexpected development, more system messages pop up. People are still out there hunting goblins even though it's late, racking up experience and money. Then another window pops up informing him that his house declaration skill has reached level 20, giving him 3 more skill points and a new ability. And thanks to that level up, his territory was not expanding either. With that, our boy drops to his knees and starts screaming, and Jae-yoon is looking at him, thinking, what the hell is happening? And man, things aren't looking good for our boy because the pain keeps getting worse. Jae-yoon can barely see through his blurry vision as Yejin frantically asks if he's okay. Dude feels like giant needles are tearing through his body from the inside out. Yejin's panicking, telling him to breathe and asking what she can do to help. She's getting dangerously close to his face, and through the haze of pain, Jae-yoon realizes what she's about to do. He manages to ask what the hell she thinks she's doing. The girl immediately backs away, all embarrassed, explaining she thought he stopped breathing and was about to give him CPR. Jae-yoon cuts her off, saying he's fine while Blackie's crying in the background, worried sick about his master. Once he gets his bearings, Jae-yoon activates Ultimate Eyes and sees the expansion for what it really is. The zone spread both west and north, covering a full 1 kilometer radius around the complex. No wonder the pain was so intense. This is the biggest expansion yet. Even though he's completely drained, our boy knows this isn't nap time. The system gives him 3 skill points for hitting level 20, and the first thing our boy upgrades is his Pervy Eyes ability, the most important skill for current operations. With that, the Ultimate Eyes hits level 4 and unlocks multi-vision. Now Jae-yoon can see multiple views simultaneously, like having a bunch of CCTV monitors around him. The problem is, it's mentally exhausting. He can only handle 3 views at once. With 2 skill points left, he upgrades Dignity Preservation to level 5, which unlocks something called Mystic Draw and gives him 300 crystals as a bonus. A bright circle forms beneath him, and when it fades, a communication ring appears that can send his voice directly to his vassals. Speaking of vassals, he checks Davin's stats. Level 25, 11 servant title, 77 trust, 100 loyalty, and she just awakened telepathy. Perfect skill for someone handling communications. Through his multi-vision, Jae-yoon sees that a bunch of people are complaining that 50 people have been cramped into a few rooms, and they're pissed these guys are demanding more rooms from her, and Davin's trying to explain it's temporary, but the residents aren't buying it. One guy's shouting about all the empty houses they saw, demanding the kids at least get proper rooms. Davin's overwhelmed, apologizing and explaining current policy doesn't allow it. That's when the system activates Supreme Door. Jae-yoon can now control all doors in his territory. Just as Davin's losing control of the situation, a door swings open on its own. Some guy gets suspicious, complaining about people barging into homes during emergencies. Then Jae-yoon steps through, catching Davin completely off guard. Our boy doesn't mess around. He tells the complainer that if he doesn't like the house rules, he's welcome to leave immediately. The guy asks him to repeat that, so Jae-yoon straight up kicks him out. The room goes quiet, and Jae-yoon asks if anyone else has complaints. Then he drops the hammer and announces that electricity, water, and gas are getting cut off to that unit. A young woman asks if he's serious about such extreme measures. Jae-yoon looks her dead in the eye and says that's exactly what he wants to ask them. He points out they showed up right after the giant fell, thinking this place was some kind of charity. Then he breaks down why giving in to demands creates more problems. First, if they give them more rooms soon, there will be no more rooms to give to new arrivals. Second, those who are working will feel disrespected, and third, if he fulfills this wish of theirs, their demands will never end. He gets brutally honest, telling them the basic rights and welfare they expect don't exist here. The South Korean government fell, and he's not anyone's representative. Some might see him as a tyrant abusing power, but the world's too brutal for naive ideals about rights and welfare. He explains that other survivors who arrived earlier are enduring harsh conditions, doing rotating shifts just to get some rest, but they still take care of the children and weak as a community. They're fighting for survival together instead of making demands. Then our boy told them that they have two options here. Either return to their assigned accommodations immediately and earn their rights. If they refuse, they'll lose even more than what's already been taken from them. Hearing those harsh words, the group immediately backs off. David lets out this relieved sigh and thanks Jaehyun for saving her from that mess. But our boy says there's no need for thanks. He should be the one grateful to her, and he says that using telepathy. This confuses David. That's when our boy says that she might be able to do something similar to what he just pulled off. He asks if she knows about telepathy and tells her to think of someone she wants to talk to, imagining a mental conversation. David closes her eyes and concentrates, and a faint aura starts glowing around her. Jaehyun's pleased and tells her she needs to practice to learn the exact limits of this ability. Then some nervous guy with trembling hands waves at Jaehyun. Our boy turns and asks him if he has something else to say. The man immediately bows his head down and he asks for forgiveness. Jaehyun asks what he wants, and the guy admits he's being bold but wants Jaehyun to forgive his friend Eunuch, who got kicked out earlier. He argues that Eunuch was just saying what everyone was thinking and shouldn't be the only one punished. This guy is named Kyung-hun folks. He then respectfully begs for mercy toward Eunuch and says he'll accept any punishment himself. Jaehyun's thinking maybe it's time to bring Sung Eunuch back, knowing deep down that making an example of someone by ruining their life isn't right. Through the system, he sees Eunuch still standing outside the door, not having gone anywhere. Jaehyun tells Kyung-hun he'll restore Eunuch's citizenship and bring back electricity and water, and will even restore gas for his apartment. He says that he's doing this out of respect for Kyung-hun's courage, but warns there won't be second chances. The system confirms Eunuch's citizenship is restored, and Kyung-hun hurries back relieved. Another message pops up saying Kyung-hun's trust in Jaehyun increased. When he was gone, our boy was thinking to himself how he was always planning to restore gas because without it, children will suffer, but now he can't go back on his words or the punishment will be meaningless. Just then, Daben flashes her this bright smile and says that he really is a kind-hearted guy, which makes Jaehyun all embarrassed. He changes the subject, saying that the shared facility that they currently have in 3 buildings, he is planning to expand that to 25 buildings. And as she heard that, her expression changed from a smile to "What the hell did you say, you bastard?" real quick. She asked him to repeat what he just said, so our boy did, explaining that he is planning to expand and asking her how many team members she has. She quickly replied that, including hiring, they currently have 14 people working. Jaehyun explains if he can expand to 100 people, he could assign 4 to manage each building. Daven's eyes light up and she offers to pay 100,000 per day for each person, promising everything would run smoothly at that scale. Then this new guy approaches, introducing himself as Sung Min, an associate professor of nephrology at some hospital. He asks if Jaehyun needs a medical team. The scene shifts and we see Jaehyun talking to Daben. Our boy mentions he let the medical team go earlier, but thinks high-ranking people need proper treatment. He asks Daben about turning a room into a hospital, and she thinks it's a good idea. Jaehyun notes they could probably find nurses if they look around and makes managing the medical team Daben's responsibility. She's excited and promises he can count on her. Jaehyun heads back to where Yejin's waiting. She asks if he solved the problem, and he confirms with a smile. He activates his ultimate eye ability and sees Dongjun's group heading to Jagali Station with no issues. Back to the system he goes, investing his final skill points in the ultimate storage. It hits level 2, doubling capacity to 200 kilograms and adding state preservation that keeps items in the exact condition they were stored in. This gives Jaehyun a brilliant idea. He buys an SND revolver and 100 rounds of ammunition from the store. His theory is that if he stores the gun mid-shot, the movement will be preserved and continue when summoned. He tells Yejin to cover her ears, which freaks her out when she sees the gun. Jaehyun reassures her it'll be quick, then gives the command store and warehouse and pulls the trigger simultaneously. The gunshot echoes, but the system confirms perfect storage. Feeling excited about his theory, Jaehyun steps onto the balcony while Yejin stays frozen in shock. He holds out his hand and commands, "Summon live shot." A stream of bullets pours out at remarkable speed exactly as he planned. This becomes the perfect way to help Dongjun's group at Jagali Station. Goblins start getting hit one after another by the incoming bullets, dropping like flies. These goblin bastards then run away, absolutely terrified, leaving Dongjun's group finally alone. With that, Dongjun's group was finally at the Jagali Station. Our boy contacts Dongjun's group, asking if they can hear his voice. Dongjun's completely caught off guard, genuinely surprised he can hear him so clearly. Our boy realizes everyone must be hearing him perfectly and tells them communication will work this way from now on. He directs them to exit number 2. When they reach the exit, Dongjun looks around at the completely ruined surroundings. Jaehyun's thinking to himself that they're now stepping into truly unknown territory where every path could hide a threat. Meanwhile, Yejin's still struggling to reconnect with the rats at the central hub and failing miserably. Without that connection, the group's moving forward completely blind. After he was out, Dongjin asks Jaehyun where they should go next. Our boy then guides them toward the large road stretching to the left, explaining that following it for about 1 kilometer should bring them closer to their destination. Then something suddenly appears that gets everyone's attention. And folks, it's that damn shark from before and now was standing before Dongjin's group. Standing before the beast, the gang was panicking. Dongjin is thinking about how their luck is straight up trash. First, it was the fight with those fishermen that they barely won, and now that they were finally out, they run with this abomination. The shark opens its massive jaws, letting out a scream. Wait, can sharks even scream? Anyways, that damn thing doesn't waste a second and lunges at the gang. Dongjin is keeping it busy while Four Eyes gives the fish bastard a taste of American justice. After that, Dongjin charges forward and delivers a powerful blow to the shark's fin. Yeonju joins the party. She leaps off the ground, crashing down on the monster's head, making quick work of it. The system announces a level 24 shark has been hunted, dropping experience and money. Four Eyes connects his mind to Blackie, and as he was scouting, he gets an aerial view and sees something that makes him freeze. He tells everyone that the whole area seems filled with fish. As he was saying that, a group of swordfish-type fish came flying towards them, and the group was thinking, what the hell is this? And given their luck, the gang knows that they are in for another fight, so they don't waste a second and prepare for the fight. Duxu raises his halberd. His armor activates and starts turning these fish bastards into experience, and the group is providing support. Four Eyes with the gun and Gaon with her bow. Even though their teamwork is flawless, Gaon knows that they won't be able to take down all of them one by one. Just then she heard the healer girl scream. She turned and saw that she was firing without even aiming the monster's charges at her straight, but then the girl used her brain and summoned the bullets from her storage. This time, all the bullets hit the target. Back in the apartment, our boy is cursing his heart out, saying how the payout is straight up trash. He then turns to Yejin. He hands her the gun and tells her to fire in his stead. The girl is nervous and asks him where she should aim. Our boy tells her that anywhere is fine and tells her to hurry as he doesn't have the time. She then starts firing and our boy starts storing them, ready to deploy them in battle. He was now focused on taking down the monster. Yejin quickly runs out of the ammo and asks him what to do next. He tells her to keep going. Our boy thinks the operation's efficiency has increased 6 times over, and though he feels bad for putting Yejin through this, he knows this approach is necessary. Then the door swings open and the poison girl enters. She asks them what the heck is going on, but the sight before her was way too odd, so for a second she even thinks that it was a dream. Meanwhile, back in the battlefield, the group was now facing a giant crab. And this giant crab is already ready to throw hands, lifting up its massive limbs like it's about to rearrange the whole battlefield. When it strikes down, the ground literally shakes like there's an earthquake happening. But our boy Dongjun and the Yeonju manage to dodge just in time after that. Yeonju lets out this powerful battle cry, calling for the healer. Dajin doesn't waste a second and does her thing. She raises her hand and wraps her in this glowing aura. Meanwhile, Yeonju is hanging by the crab's legs. After she got the buff, she opened her mouth and bit the hell out of that crab. Meanwhile, our boy Dongjin was ready to provide support, running in the crab's direction, spear in hand. At just the right moment, he stops his sprint and yeets the weapon with perfect aim, sending it flying straight into the crab's head and piercing right through the center. To seal the deal, Yeonju chimes in from behind with her claws. She hits the crab with everything she has got, but to her surprise, nothing happens. Just then, Juno shouts for everyone to fall back. From above, he raises his weapon and starts firing one bullet after the other. Amid all that chaos, Dongjin's like, what the hell are we supposed to do now? This thing's insanely tanky. For a moment, doubt creeps in as he wonders if they even have a shot at winning. Meanwhile, our boy is watching it all go down from his apartment. He figures out that this creature isn't like their regular trash mobs. What they need isn't shark hits, they need something heavy and crushing, like a hammer. Once he figures this out, he starts looking around for something that can deliver that kind of force. He searches around the room to find something like that. He quickly puts it in his storage. And through his communication ability, Jun tells the Yeonju that when he gives this signal, she needs to leap onto the crab's shell. He found something that'll break through it. Right after, Javen raises his hand and summons this heavy barbell that pops up right in front of him. Internally, he's apologizing to Mivo, silently promising he'll buy them a new one later. His plan's simple. Let the bar fall and let gravity do its thing, building up energy. Then store it. Immediately after, bring it back out. It shoots through the system window and flies toward the crab's head like a missile. At that exact moment, he gives the signal. The barb pierces the target, splitting open its head and sending blood spurting everywhere. Without hesitation, the Yeonju launches herself at the opening. Claws ready, sharpened, and gleaming. She closes the distance, delivering the finishing blow that finally ends this bastard. The system registers the killed giant crab, level 35, giving XP and depositing money. Yet even after winning, the path home looks like a chaotic marketplace of sea monsters. Every kind of fish and crab thing keeps attacking without a break. Joe knows that without his support, the group would die like 10 times already. He accepts that this place is just too much. Even for Dongjin's group and these guys are all awakened and armed, they're still struggling just to go a single kilometer. Now he has to admit to himself that the chances of his family being alive are almost zero. The closer he gets to home, the stronger the fear grows. Still, even if there's just a 1% chance, he can't lose hope. Using his ability, he looks at the surroundings and notices a ruined but familiar street. Just beyond that narrow alley is his home. But suddenly a tree catches his attention. Through his communication skill, he tells the group to stop. He knows this city well. He was born and raised in this neighborhood, and he's sure there was never a tree like that on the main road. Even if there had been, the city would never have left it there blocking traffic. This means the tree only showed up after the world went to hell. Using his ability again, Jae-hyun points out the weird thing to everyone. He asks if they can see that big tree ahead. The group confirms they can. Jae-hyun then says to the group, that tree is a monster. So now the gang's standing there when this massive tree decides it's time to wake up, and I'm talking about a tree with a giant eyeball on its trunk. The whole ground starts shaking like the world itself is backing away from this thing. Gaeong takes a shot, hits the tree clean, but this wooden bastard barely notices. Dongjin throws his spears at it with perfect aim, and the tree's just tanking everything. Bong-ho teleports behind it and starts blasting away, while the Yeonju charges in and goes full beast mode, tearing into the bark with her claws. But then the tree fights back. It wraps her up in its branches and lifts her into the air. Everyone's screaming her name, and the tree starts forming these spear-shaped branches aimed right at her. Bunvo jumps in front to protect her. She's yelling at him to get back, and then something weird happens. The tree just stops, pulls everything back, and goes quiet. Jae-hyun's watching all this, trying to figure out what just happened. He tells Dongjin to pull Yeonju back while everyone else keeps moving forward. The tree starts rising again, everyone gets ready to fight, and then it just settles back down like nothing happened. That's when it clicks for Jae-hyun. A shark charges at the tree and gets absolutely destroyed by the branches. But notice something? The tree only attacks non-humans. It's got zero interest in the people standing there. So Jae-hyun tells everyone to just ignore this tree and keep moving since it's not actually hostile to them. They walk past it and eventually stop at another location. Dongjin signals to Jae-hyun, who's silently hoping this isn't the right spot. But Jae-hyun confirms with shaking hands that yeah, this is where his parents are supposed to be, but instead, there's just this massive tree sitting there instead. Seeing this, our boy is pissed. He's thinking this tree has no right to be where his ancestors should rest, and he's ready to burn the whole thing down. He's planning to douse it in gasoline and watch it turn to ash. Then a system message pops up saying one of Jae-hyun's blood relatives is nearby. Suddenly, someone's shouting, a bright light hits the group, and an old man appears with two others looking at them and asking who the hell they are and why they were harassing their peepee. So the villagers show up and immediately start freaking out because there's a hole in this giant tree they're calling Poppy. One guy is looking at the tree, asking if the tree's okay, and saying the village chief is going to be devastated. Then they turn on Dongjin's group, demanding to know if they did this. Our boy admits it with the most casual yeah ever, and one of the villagers loses it, screaming about how they hurt a defenseless child. Meanwhile, people are gathering around this unusually plump meat, saying that they are going to have a feast tonight, and Dongjin is saying if they are really going to eat that, saying that thing probably doesn't even taste good. The old man tells them to shut up, asking him if he thinks that they have the luxury to choose. But while all this drama is unfolding, our boy's brain is working overtime. He's connecting dots. The tree that never attacked humans, the massive tree growing where his house should be, and all those plants and flowers from his childhood. Then it hits him like a truck. This has to be someone's awakening ability. And if someone awakened a power as strong as his, there's only one person it could be. He mutters, "So you've awakened, grandfather," and tears just start flowing because he thought everyone was dead. Man's relieved his grandpa's alive, but then reality checks back in. This place is crawling with monsters in their high 20s, just casually strolling around, and creatures in their teens moving in packs. Jan's looking around thinking, how the hell are people surviving here? But now it makes sense. Someone asks if he's okay, and he plays it cool, saying everything's fine, but internally he's like, I need to check this out properly. Later, after they finish cutting up monster meat, an elderly guy thanks them for the help. Jae-hyun tells Dongjin to ask the villager chief's name, and he does without asking a question. The elder told him that their chief's name is Lee Bong-yeol, and he said that our boy's eyes go wide because, yep, that's definitely Grandpa. The villagers lead them into this bustling settlement with over 100 people running around. It's like a whole market just relocated here. There's food everywhere, stalls set up, and people working. One guy comes over talking about how Poppy pulled off something big again, and they start preparing fresh sashimi for the group. For the first time in forever, everyone's sitting down for a peaceful meal together. One survivor nervously asks for chopsticks, but the cook says they don't have any. You have to eat with your hands. Then Jae-hyun just casually materializes chopsticks out of thin air, and the baldy is like, what the heck is happening? Yeonju is holding them and almost cries, thanking him. She takes a bite and loses her mind over how delicious it is, and suddenly everyone's digging in like they haven't eaten in years. But wait, there's more. Jae-hyun summons a bottle of cola out of nowhere. The survivors are staring like he just performed a miracle. Then he materializes Sprite too. People are losing their minds. He asks if they want some, and the elder almost faints, asking if it's really for them. Then Jae-hyun goes full Santa mode and starts summoning crates of drinks, snacks, and even paper towels. Everyone's standing there in shock, wondering if this guy's some kind of god, talking about bowing down to thank him. Then heavy footsteps echo through the camp. Someone with serious main character energy asks why it's so noisy. Jae-hyun stiffens immediately. His eyes lock onto the approaching figure, and even he looks alarmed. An elderly man with this almost divine presence steps forward, and someone whispers, "Chief." Jae-hyun's breath catches as he mutters, "Grandfather." Just then, a system window pops up showing the most ridiculous title ever, Guardian of the World Tree. Man, his old man is really the chosen one, chosen by the World Tree. Just by Gramps' arrival, the whole vibe shifts immediately. The chief walks up, and Jae-hyun's studying him hard because the last time he saw his grandfather, the old man was frail and sick, barely hanging on. But now, dude's walking like he's in his prime, back straight, movements steady. Our boy realizes this has to be the awakening doing its thing. Jae-hyun can't bring himself to step forward, so he asks the others to handle the greeting. Dongjin bows respectfully while one of the elders brags about how these newcomers can create stuff out of thin air. The chief looks at all the supplies and goes, "Really? We've been struggling with water." He thanks Dongjin, but our guy has to correct him, saying it wasn't us, it was all Jae-hyun. The chief freezes. His eyes go wide when he realizes his grandson is the one behind all this. He asks if they are talking about the Jae-hyun he knows, and the gang confirms that they are talking about the same dumbass. After hearing this, the old man completely breaks down. His voice is shaking as he asks if his grandson is really alive. The moment he gets confirmation, he orders everyone to follow him. The massive tree starts moving, branches forming a pathway down to the ground like something out of a fantasy movie. Jae-hyun's watching from a distance, heart pounding, thinking he'll finally get to see his mom, dad, and grandmother too. Though there's still no way to reach them yet, he's already planning ahead. Once the outpost is done, he can use his game skill to go directly home. Then the system drops another message saying that he can now build an annex for 10 billion. It's basically a massive expansion that only works when a blood relative lives there. Jae-hyun's thinking about the cost, but then realizes this thing apparently can't be destroyed, which makes it way more valuable than any regular outpost. He's got over 7 billion left from taking over the apartment complex, so he's like, screw it, and drops 3 billion on it without hesitation. Blue energy explodes from the ground, and this holographic layout of a massive complex unfolds before him. It's like his current place, but way bigger. The system says it'll be done in 7 days, and Jae-hyun's relieved, thinking he just needs to keep grandfather in range while it's building. Then another notification pops up. The residents encountered a blood relative. His heart clenches. Grandmother. The group enters this huge wooden chamber inside the tree, and there she is, lying gracefully but looking aged. Jae-hyun whispers her name, eyes trembling. His grandfather gently takes her hand and tells her that Jae-hyun sent these people. She tears up hearing their grandson is alive, and Jae-hyun's own voice breaks as he asks everyone to find out what happened. But here's where it gets rough. The grandfather explains that grandmother has been unable to wake up since that day, the day the monsters showed up and everything went to hell. She's been in this coma-like state ever since. Jae-hyun seeing his grandfather's expression break for the first time, and it's absolutely destroying him inside. But he's trying to stay positive, thinking at least she's alive. Her skin looks healthy and she's breathing steadily. His grandfather's ability has clearly been keeping her going. What really pisses Javen off is that he can't give quests to blood relatives. If he could, he'd do whatever it took to help her, no matter the cost. He tries using his healing ability, but nothing changes. Then something weird hits him. The house is too quiet. 7 people just barged in loudly, so why hasn't anyone else come out? He asks about his parents, and his grandfather stiffens. The old man takes a deep breath and says that day his mom went to work and his dad went out to earn money. They're probably hiding somewhere safe, and his father would never leave his mother alone. But Javen reads between the lines. His grandfather doesn't actually believe they're alive. He's just trying to soften the blow. The weight of despair is crushing, but Javen refuses to give up. Even if the chance is close to 0, he's chasing that tiny thread of hope. He tells everyone their next target is Unwinding Nursing Hospital, orders them to rest at his house tonight, and says they'll head out tomorrow. Just then, the system lights up again, informing him that his blood relative was detected nearby. Jaehyun's eyes go wide. He immediately orders Yejin to command the rats to find every survivor in the area right now. This signal isn't coming from Dongjin's group, it's closer. Someone's heading their direction. His voice cracks as realization hits him. It's his mom and dad. Meanwhile, the village workers are busy hauling supplies and fixing stuff, complaining about how the workload never ends. One guy's wiping sweat, saying with the new outpost expanding, it makes sense they're this busy. Then out of nowhere, this strange sound cuts through the air. Everyone freezes and looks up as massive shadows fall across the road. From the sky, these grotesque winged monsters descend, blocking out the moonlight. One villager drops his tools and is like, what in the world is that? The alarm bell starts ringing like crazy as someone shouts that monsters are swarming in. People are running everywhere, grabbing weapons and gathering families. The guards are yelling to take everything to storage and lower the shutters. Someone bursts into the chief's quarters saying he needs to come out immediately. There's a massive horde charging in. Outside, the ground's shaking as dozens upon dozens of monsters surge forward. The defenders are preparing for battle, hands trembling. Dongan asks if these are really all monsters, and the elder stays surprisingly calm, ordering everyone back while summoning his living trees. He then notices Poppy is badly injured and asks the group if they know something about it. Dong, feeling guilty, steps up and says that they'll be happy to lend a hand in this fight, but Jaehyun's grandfather tells them to stay back. He drops this bombshell. The monster's target isn't them. Everyone's confused until he explains that from his perspective, it looks like the monsters are running away from something. They're not attacking, they're fleeing. But that doesn't mean they won't cause damage while passing through, so everyone needs to be ready. He then adds that even if that's the case and the monsters are just passing by, at this rate they'll definitely collide with them. With that, he uses his ability and whips out a barrier. Meanwhile, Dongjin is thinking how whatever's chasing these creatures isn't ordinary. Even the chief couldn't last a few minutes against it. Dongjin shouts they'll help fight, but the elder raises his hand and tells them to stay inside because they'll just get in the way. Then the real show starts. Gramps channels his overwhelming energy, and with one devastating stomp, he shatters the ground and wipes out hundreds of monsters instantly. System notifications start flooding Jaehyun's vision. You hunted this, you hunted that, gained X, gained X. A new achievement pops up, Mass Monster Annihilation. Then comes the kicker, Bloodline notification. All stats increase by trust points multiplied by 10, and experience from monsters hunted by someone with the Bloodline title increases tenfold and is shared evenly. Jaehyun's eyes go wide, realizing his grandfather is level 55 and basically a one-man army. Our boy's thinking, help him? We should be glad if we don't get in the way. The slaughter continues with system messages raining down, and then suddenly, Jaehyun levels up. But he's not ready. Purple lightning starts erupting from his body. He screams as energy bursts outward, covering the city in crackling arcs. His body feels like it's being torn apart, and then comes the explosion. Pure energy ripping through the skies. When it finally subsides, Jaehyun collapses to one knee, gasping. The system shows he's discovered beings that meet the requirements to become citizens. Jaehyun asks through clenched teeth if his parents are included, but the system says there are too many newly registered citizens to check individually. His fists tremble as he realizes if his parents were in range, it would have been a bloodline message, not a citizenship message. That means they're outside the barrier. Meanwhile, Yejin's controlling her rats, trying to track his parents' location. The grandfather makes a weird observation. The monsters he kills now disappear completely, not even leaving bones behind. Someone explains it's because of Jaehyun's ability. Ever since they came under his influence, corpses have stopped being left behind. Jaehyun realizes there's an inconvenience he never thought about, eating monsters. He stretches out his hand and uses item registration on a monster's head. The system confirms it worked, and he's relieved, saying even though the price is steep, this alone could feed 100 people. Then Yejin rushes in, saying she found something. She points out a group of survivors, and Jaehyun turns his gaze in that direction. The system confirms that Yejin has encountered the bloodline of the ultimate shut-in. Meanwhile, the group's staring at an apartment, and our boy's mother is like, "Dear, look, our apartment is fine." The dad looks at it and goes, "Yes, you are right. And get this, guys, these two are badasses as well, much like our boy and Gramps, and over level 50 at that." Back in the apartment, our boy was watching them crying in joy after he realized that it really was his parents. The system confirms citizenship for 23 people bound to blood relative Lai Ji-suk. Jaehyun's parents are right at the edge of the expanded area, and he's watching them getting closer, stepping inside the safe zone. Thanks to the bloodline area being unlocked, that invisible wall won't block them anymore. Then it happens. Standing at the threshold, Jaehyun finally sees his parents alive, walking toward him. He's crying out, "Mom, Dad," with his voice breaking, while his parents freeze in disbelief on the other side. His mother's whispering, "Is that really?" And his father's muttering, "Am I dreaming right now?" Jaehyun can't hold back anymore. He rushes forward, shouting that his parents are alive, and they recognize him instantly and run to meet him. They're hugging him, calling out his name, unable to believe their son is really standing there. His mother's holding him tight, asking if it's really him, frantically checking if he's hurt anywhere. He reassures her if he's fine, has been doing well this whole time. Around them, other survivors start gathering. Jaehyun notices most of them are nurses from the hospital where his mom used to work. He realizes all 23 people with them are now awakened well, more like his mom granted them abilities to survive in this new world. That Jaehyun notices something weird. Two dogs are barking furiously at the barrier, unable to step through. The survivors are confused, but Jaehyun immediately gets it. The dogs haven't been granted citizenship, so they can't enter. He extends his hand and says, "Grant entry," and with that the dogs pass through safely. A blue system window pops up. Contract or subordination can contract up to 100 people and awaken their abilities. Jaehyun quickly understands this is like the survivor registration. Those who enter through this contract awaken powers of their own. He's thinking his mom's ability is ridiculously incredible for survival. His mother almost tears up, praying and thanking God, Buddha, and anyone who helped her dumbest son survive. Jaehyun then checks his father's ability, and another notification confirms it. Protective Aura S rank. While active, all physical abilities multiply threefold, and it creates a defensive aura over the entire body using mental energy. But here's where it gets insane. Jaehyun realizes the skill says 3 times, not 300%. There's a huge difference if abilities that boost stats by 200% and 300% stack. They add up to 500%. But if a triple skill stacks on a 200% boost, that 300% gets tripled, meaning the final result is 900%. So right now, his dad has the citizen buff raising all stats by 93%, and then the bloodline effect adds another 930%, putting him at 1,120% efficiency. And if he activates Protective Aura, his physical abilities strengthen to a total of 3,369%. Jaehyun is amazed, thinking that's enough to skip several levels of difference with ease. The 23 Awakeners his parents lead are mostly B and C rank, but still leagues above unawakened people. That's how they made it here safely. Jaehyun looks at the exhausted group and decides to take care of them. He extends his hand, promising to allocate 5 units to all of them, saying if they need rice, ramen, or anything, just ask. They'll provide it all. Tells them to rest, take a warm shower, and sleep comfortably in a heated room. His words make his parents tear up, though his mother gets worried, whispering, could the shock be so great that he can't tell the difference between before the apocalypse and now? Jaehyun quickly reassures them with a calm smile, asking his mom if she saw the lights on in their apartment. She nods, explaining how they noticed so many lights when they arrived, thinking it was amazing. But Jaehyun asks, why do you think there's electricity in a world with no power or water? He snaps his fingers, saying, watch closely, and lights come alive across the building, shocking everyone. Then he pulls out something that leaves them speechless, a bottle of Coke. The crowd gasps. One nurse timidly asks if they can really drink something so rare, and Jaehyun hands it over with a smile, saying, of course. After everyone gets a drink, he guides them to their homes and stocks them with ramen, rice, eggs, milk, and all the supplies they need. His mom hesitates, asking if they're really allowed to use other people's homes freely like this. Jaehyun replies with a grin that they'll have to return them if people come back, but no one has returned yet. He pushes them forward, saying not to worry about it. Later, Jaehyun brings his parents into another home. As soon as they enter, 2 girls bow deeply, saying, greetings, mother, father. His parents freeze, wondering if their dumbest son is using his powers to keep these beautiful girls hostage. Jaehyun quickly denies it, scolding and telling the girls to go. With only family remaining, Jaehyun sits them down and asks what happened to them until now. He's thinking to himself about how his father was basically working as a taxi driver, always picking up and dropping off his mother. That day, too, his dad went to pick mom up after work as usual. When the monsters appeared, they protected each other and both survived. As Jaehyun expected, the one who awakened was his mother. After their story, Jaehyun shares his own about the abilities he gained, how he survived, and even about Grandma's situation with his grandfather watching over her. The night grows late as they continue sharing stories. Even though there are still problems left to solve, Jaehyun feels something he hasn't in a long time. Sitting at the table with his parents, he thinks maybe because he's with his family, the house feels warm for the first time in a long while. The scene cuts to Japan's Nagasaki prefecture, where soldiers on patrol freeze in fear during heavy rain. Their eyes go wide as this massive shadow looms in front of them. One guy stammering, asking what the hell that creature is, while his buddy's sweating despite the cold rain, muttering it's like some nightmare monster come to life. Then we see this giant dragon-like creature with glowing blue eyes. The soldiers just stare in awe and horror as it keeps moving forward. But here's the weird part. Instead of attacking, it just passes by them. One soldier realizes it's not here for them. He can't tell where it's heading, but he is sure of one thing. Wherever that thing goes, destruction's definitely following. The next morning, Jaehyun's so overjoyed, he immediately calls his grandfather to share the news that his parents are alive. On the other end, his grandfather listens, and when Jaehyun tells him about finding his parents, the old man's overwhelmed. Jaehyun reassures him both parents are safe with him, so don't worry. His grandfather, who'd been suffering alongside his grandmother, feels this immense weight lift from his chest. By his grandmother's side, he plays the video call replay again and again, unable to contain his happiness at seeing them alive. For the first time in forever, the family senses hope. Jaehyun's mother asks if they can see a video of her own mother. Jaehyun tells Donghyun to record them. The video shows grandfather faithfully staying by grandmother's side, caring for her even though she's unconscious. Mom completely breaks down, pressing the phone to her lips and sobbing quietly, while Jaehyun reassures her they'll be able to meet in person soon. Jaehyun's thinking once the annex is complete, they can use his gate skill to go to the main house where grandfather is. He temporarily assigned Dongjun's party there so they can hunt monsters nearby while construction continues. With 3 vassals, including a rare title knight stationed there, construction efficiency shot up by 50%. What should have taken a full week will only take a few days now. After the previous night's monster wave, the monster population near the main house surged, making it an ideal hunting ground. Back at the Haven, though, hunting's becoming almost impossible. You have to walk a kilometer or more outside just to find monsters. Since the territory expanded, citizens' hunting frequency dropped sharply. Some who didn't realize the area expanded were wandering around their old hunting grounds confused, not knowing those areas are now part of the Haven. Jaehyun decides to make an official announcement. He asks Davin to explain clearly that the territory has expanded and from now on, they need to go beyond Cayman Station to hunt. He also tells her to establish a relief team to rescue survivors inside the territory, including those who came yesterday asking for a medical team. Jaehyun's thinking hard about how in the newly expanded area there are thousands of survivors and most are in dire conditions. Even inside the safe haven, more than 10 people died, mainly from lack of drinking water because they couldn't go outside due to monsters. He wants to save as many people as possible, even using his gate to go directly to them if needed. His mom interrupts, asking what's wrong with his serious face. He tells her everything, and she offers to help. Turns out among the people she brought were some with healing or care abilities. Care is very effective against status conditions like dehydration, fainting, and poisoning. His mom forms contracts of subordination with the relief team, and more than 80% awaken healing-related abilities. Most are D or C rank, so their overall level's low, but once the relief team starts moving, the situation quickly calms down. After 3 exhausting days and nights of rescue efforts, Jaehyun collapses on the floor, muttering it's finally over. They comb through every house in the territory, saving countless lives. The system notifies him that survivors meeting citizenship conditions want to join. He accepts without hesitation. Since the territory expanded, survivors have been streaming in steadily and the population's already nearing 10,000. But as he rests, heavy rain pours outside, darker and heavier than usual. Davin tells him that they have found some survivors who have been found outside the haven's territory, and the relief team wants to go save them. Jaehyun thinks going beyond the territory is extremely dangerous. Davin says they tried talking them out of it, but they said, it's the golden time and we must go. Jaehyun realizes the world outside has changed. Goblin packs aren't the only threat anymore. Monsters that should have been confined to the ocean have made their way inland. Still, the relief team insists they can't abandon those lives. Watching them, Jaehyun realizes they're incredibly determined. Many were probably firefighters before. Despite the risks, they're ready to put everything on the line. He tells Davin that he'll assign a hunting team as escorts. Then he receives a system message about hunting a giant crab. Jaehyun figures since no payout came, his dad as bloodline must have hunted it. He's amazed his dad went hunting in this heavy rain, thinking with his stats skyrocketing he's probably enjoying the hunts now. But then suddenly countless messages pop up. He quickly realizes that it's not his father but his grandfather that's been hunting these monsters, and judging by the number of pop-ups, he has figured out that something odd is going on there, so he contacts Dongjun immediately, asking him about the situation there. Dongjun tells him that a huge wave of monsters suddenly showed up out of nowhere, and our boy is wondering how it's odd for the sea monsters to show up on land. Meanwhile, Gramps continues fighting, but he has the same question in mind. Why are these monsters here and what are they running from? Just then, the dragon from earlier shows up that wants to tell everyone to subscribe to Mamoru so he can bring juicy content like this to you every day, and don't forget to press that cheeky little bell.